Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto betrayed by his sister part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Valley of the End. He was tired. He had used up all his chakra getting past the Sound 4 and keeping up with the abilities of the Sharingan. And now we find Naruto exhausted and being held up by Sasuke, the latter ready to plunge an electricity-covered arm through his heart. A last-ditch effort, the blonde diverted the elemental blade from his heart to his right lung. It would still be a death blow to any normal being, but our blonde hero was anything but normal. The pain was all he could feel, not the crimson liquid being poured from his punctured lung or the blood rapidly filling his mouth, but this pain brought back memories of his Rasengan training with Jiraiya. Memory. Naruto sat concentrating on the small blue orbs slowly growing in his charred palm. But alas, it wasn't meant to be. His chakra sufficiently drained from him with performing the technique so many times. He had no more to give, so with a sigh he grabbed a fallen leaf and spun it between his dexterous digits, slumped against a tree and closed his eyes. Going over the steps in his head, he was so focused on getting more chakra to continue to train, oblivious to the now shriveled and bone-dry leaf. He absorbed chakra from the small leaf he was twirling between his fingers. With the small amount of nature chakra he had absorbed, he felt the minute increase in his reserves. Like a raindrop upon a puddle, he felt the ripple and opened his eyes to see the dead leaf. Many people had called him obtuse, or oblivious to his surroundings or the world, but his mind had been kept sharp from a young age to avoid any and all unwanted encounters with the civilians and most ninja of Konoha. But those were far from his thoughts, and he looked at the once bright green leaf turn dead brown. He gave the leaf a once-over and dropped it to pick up another leaf laying near him, so he began experimenting with the newfound idea. It was the direct opposite of the Rasengan. Instead of forcing out chakra in a swirling pattern, he drew his chakra away from his palm in a circular pattern, and he gained the same results from the last leaf. It crumpled between his fingers. Once again he felt the drop of chakra from the leaf in his exhausted reserves. A grin spread across his face. Training would go so much faster as he didn't have to stop to wait for his chakra to replenish. All around, you could see large brown circles all over the once green clearing. He once tried draining chakra from a tree, but he immediately felt it overwhelming him and forced him to vomit up the foreign essence from his body, with much coughing following after forcibly ejecting the chakra from his body. As the bet against Tsunade waged on, he practiced with his absorption powers after each session to perfect the Rasengan. He found that not only could he take chakra from the plant life around him but animals and other people as well. He experimented with it whenever he was near large crowds and he could touch a person's hand or sleeved arm unnoticed. He found not only would he steal chakra, but he found he would have memories and abilities that weren't his. Each new person or animal he siphoned off of, he would feel their emotions and gain traits. When he first noticed the changes in his physical form, he couldn't control them, and the more powerful the being he siphoned, the more difficult it was to force the traits absorbed to recede. Memory End. Naruto had never tested his power on another shinobi, but this time was as good as any. So with a shaken intake of air, he grabbed a firm hold of Sasuke's arm and planted in his chest and began to drain all the chakra he could. "Sasuke, you are the first to see my new ability in action," were Naruto's words to his newest enemy. "What are you talking about, dead last?" What tech was all he said before he could feel all his chakra begin leave him. He tore his arm from the blonde's grip and fell to one knee. The fist-sized hole in Naruto's chest closed up with the intake of fresh chakra to work with. His once blonde hair now had thick black streaks and had grown out to similar length to Sasuke's. Blue eyes turned purple with the famous three-tomo design of the Sharingan. Even the cursed seal had been absorbed. Memories of techniques. The Uchiha massacre. From Sasuke's perspective, everything that was Sasuke was now firmly copied into Naruto's mind and body. The rush of chakra re-energized the blonde/black-haired teen. He grinned and kicked Sasuke into the cliff and rendered him into the blissful darkness. "Sasuke, you are coming back to Konoha to face judgment of desertion and treason." So Naruto tied Sasuke's limbs together and prepared to make the long trek back to his village. By the time Naruto had arrived at the village, he had successfully suppressed Sasuke's personality and physical traits, so he was back to his blonde self and currently very proud of himself for completing his second A-rank mission. But as soon as he had stepped through the gates, Sasuke was plucked from his grasp and Tsunade herself gave the blonde boy a solid chop to the back of the neck. The only words Naruto could gt out before he succumbed to the blackness was "why?" Naruto woke up to fuzzy voices like a radio with terrible reception and supremely light-sensitive eyes. Soon enough everything came into focus and he was simply sitting in a chair in the center of the Konoha Council Hall, and much yelling was going on around him. "Straight-out execution is far too merciful to this stupid little shit," he almost ended the Uchiha line. "The little fucker needs to die a slow, agonizing death. Why waste time trying to torture the bastard when he can spend all of eternity burning in the pits of the deepest hell? No need to delay him to his long overdue death." Those were excerpts ample to the two sides of the ideas going on, and neither boded well for the blonde hero. Everyone quieted down when the doors swung open to reveal a stone-faced Tsunade and Jiraiya. They both took their respective seats, and everyone faced Naruto seated in the middle. Tsunade stood and read off the only thing on the agenda for the meeting: the execution of Namake's Uzumaki. Naruto will now be decided. Naruto's eyes bugged out of his head at hearing both his name combined with the Yandame's and that he was facing execution. What had he done? So he voiced his concerns. Bachan, what the hell is going on? I haven't done anything. In record time, Tsunade's face went from emotionless to cold fury etched across her face, and she hissed out, "You will hold your tongue, address me in such a manner again, and I will shatter your jaw." Naruto winced at the anger in her voice. But what is this all about? He still couldn't figure out what was going on. Fine, Hokage-sama, what is this all about? The blonde can control himself when he needs to, and a threat of a shattered jaw is a good reason for some self-control. Most of the anger had left the features of the Godame and returned back to emotionless. "You have been deemed expendable, and you are to be trialed and executed for the crimes of your biju." Our blonde hero's jaw dropped to the ground. "But Bachan, I'm not the Kyuubi. Ask my friends. I haven't done anything wrong." The council erupted into laughter when Tsunade spoke up between the throes of laughter. "I haven't laughed that hard in years, so I will forgive your insult. But I would never be the grandmother to a demon such as yourself, and you have no friends. It was all a lie to secure your undying loyalty to Konoha, but your uselessness has come to an end. Your execution will correlate with the return of the Yandame, as he retakes the mantle of Hokage. Actually, I will let him explain." With those words, a bright yellow flash revealed Minato the Yandame standing next to his wife Kushina and children, Taiki, who looked identical to Naruto except for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki markers on his cheeks, and a slightly younger girl named Ri. She had shoulder-length hair, red like her mother, and a soft-featured face. Many whispers and hushed gasps floated amongst the room as people stared upon a supposedly long-dead figure and his family. "Greetings, Honorable Council. It is true. I am Minato Namake's the Yandame Hokage. I had faked my death along with my wife and son to move into exile as to not trigger the legendary rage of Kyuubi. With the Kyuubi mollified for a few years, it enabled the Jinchuriki seal to link my former son and biju, and only when they were finally fully combined could I return to finally slay the biju once and for all." With all the pieces finally coming into place, his name being read as Namake's and the Yandame himself saying he was his former son, Naruto surged from his seat with a scream intent on causing some sort of bodily harm to repay his father for leaving him stuck with Kyuubi. But he didn't get more than 2 steps before green light shot from the Shodame's necklace and bound his arms, legs, and head from moving. Minato chuckled, and seeing Naruto lying on the floor struggling against the chakra bonds, "I am glad that necklace, even after all this time, still keeps demon chakra contained. Your execution will be long and arduous. I will personally see to it. I have waited 15 years in exile waiting for the time where I can return to my people, and tomorrow I shall enjoy finally ridding the world of Kyuubi once and for all." And with that he walked up to Naruto as he had maneuvered into a kneeling position. Minato knelt to be eye level with Naruto and said, "Enjoy your last hours on Earth, Kyuubi. And if my son is able to hear me, I would like to humbly thank you and apologize for what I will do. But what the hell, my first son died when I started the fusion with the demon." Minato stood straight and grabbed the back of Naruto's head and brought the younger blonde's face to his quickly moving knee, and a resounding crack from the sudden breaking of a nose, and then the grinding noise as he ground his knee into the shattered bone and cartilage. Blood quickly escaped from the broken skin and poured down Naruto's face. He didn't make a sound through the entire ordeal, resolved to not let them see the pain he felt on the inside. The powerful blow had caused his brain to bruise and swell, forcing him into unconsciousness. The next day in Konoha, the streets were flooded with people. An announcement called for attendance of the village inhabitants in the open marketplace. Everyone was waiting for what the Hokage had gathered them for. Soon enough an A and B walked into the square, and with a quick cry of Mokutan a large stage and gallows was erected, and the Hokage marched to the stage. Gazing over the crowd, Tsunade picked up each face and smiled once she saw the entire populace showed up, bar the ninja on missions and villagers out on business. She addressed the gathered people of Konoha. "Today I stand before you as your Hokage. But without you all there would be no Konoha. Together we are unstoppable. 15 years ago Kyuubi attacked our home and we would not yield. We brought the demon to its knees. Today we see the final step in the death of Kyuubi and raise ourselves above all others, superior to all." During her speech there were chants of praise and loyalty. Konoha. The crowd screamed, getting worked into a frenzy. "Each ninja that fell to the beast will never die. They are not dead. They live in US. They live in Konoha." Roars of cheers so deafening thinking was made all but impossible with the intrusion of the cheering. "Bring out the demon," Tsunade demanded. Naruto was bound, hands behind his back, and the Shodame's necklace secured tightly to his neck to prevent any resistance. He was pelted with food, trash, rocks, anything that the crowd could get a hold of. He made it to the stage and was knelt on the edge before the crowd. Naruto watched the crowd as everybody he knew screamed chants of Konoha and murderer were some of the loudest. Tsunade stepped next to Naruto brought the crowd to a dull roar as she continued her speech. People of Konoha, here is the Kyuubi fused with a human into death. Today we shall carve out revenge for each man and woman torn from us. Today we finally send it into the depths of the abyss to suffer in an eternity of pain. The ANBU lead Naruto over to the rope hanging from the gallows and secured it around his neck fairly tight. With a signal, the rope was pulled from the other end and Naruto was yanked into the air and lowered back a standing position and was jerked back into the air and held for half a minute. Seconds from passing out, they lowered him and undid the noose. Naruto was then dragged to a table near the edge for the crowd to get a good view. His hands were freed and retied above his head. The lack of oxygen and disorientation proved to weaken him, so he put up little effort. Next, the kunai was heated blazing red and agonizingly slowly cut through the skin of his abdomen, cauterizing each blood-carrying vessel to prevent bleeding out. During this process, the amassed crowd was deathly silent, wanting to hear the pleas from the demon for it to beg for life only to be denied. Alas, they would wait an eternity. Not a sound escaped the lips of Naruto except the sparse groan when the kunai hit a nerve cluster. After the cutting of his abdomen was complete, the executioners slowly removed each organ and loose flesh from the open body cavity. The same red-hot kunai was used to prolong his pain and stave of the loss of blood as each organ was cut out. Finally, once his stomach area was emptied, they sprinkled a mixture of salt and sulfur to draw out the screams they craved for. Again, not a sound, only blood past his drenched red lips. Infuriated, Tsunade stepped forth to introduce the final player in this sick display of savagery. I bring forth the long-thought dead, the defeater of Kyuubi himself, the Yondaime. And a bright yellow flash erupted next to her, and none other than the Yondaime stood with his arms to the sky, and the crowd immediately grew to cheers and praise to the once-thought fallen Hokage. Minato stepped next to the bloody table, and the masses quieted as he spoke. The Kyuubi so long ago stomped upon our noble people and watched the life leave their eyes. And now I shall watch the life leave its eyes. With that, the ANBU picked up the almost comatose Naruto and knelt him at the feet of the Namikaze. Minato brought one of his famous tri-pronged kunai from his hip pouch and set it to the throat of Naruto. A quick slash and a torrent of rich crimson liquid sprayed out of the wound. Naruto quickly toppled onto his back, gasping for air that couldn't pass the blood. With his last few moments of life, our bloodied blonde watched the glee in Minato's eyes grow as said man stomped on his chest, forcing even more of the life liquid to spray onto the stage. Soon the streams of blood slowed and lessened in strength before nothing came from the slice except drops, and with the stopping of the flow of blood, so did the life of one Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, vessel and tide spirit of the Kyuubi no Yoko. It was a day of celebration in Konoha. The Kyuubi is dead, Yondaime is back and better than ever. Life was good for the people. The corpse of Naruto was carried from the stage and burned unceremoniously, his name stricken from the records of every book and file in Konoha. No one would remember the name Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, or who he was. To the village he no longer existed. But that was far from the truth. Somewhere in between the realm of living and dead, our blonde hero opens his eyes to a never-ending whiteness. Time, mass, space was meaningless. The only color seen besides himself is the red-curled form of the once great Kyuubi no Kitsune. The demon used to stand a magnificent 300 feet is now barely larger than a basketball. The blood-colored fur ruffled as the demon stretched and groaned from its slumber. With a voice that was once deep and deafening was now a soft, quiet mew. It seems we are now tied together forever, human. Naruto's eyes bugged from his skull at hearing and seeing the once terror-inspiring demon now reduced to a small cute animal you would rather pick up and cuddle than harm. With an outstretched arm and accusing finger pointing, he shouted, "Holy shit, what the fuck happened? Look around, human, we are dead. Well, technically we are being taken to Makio." Naruto, having the intelligence of the many people he had practiced his absorption on, he quickly pieced together a question that reflected his confusion. Huh? With a sigh, the once nine-tailed demon reformed into a teenage girl of average height and athletic build, wrapped in a knee-length deep blue kimono. Bright curly red hair swayed just below her shoulder blades and smoldering red eyes were tucked away just behind long black lashes. "Human, I am to be reborn back into the realm of demons, and by extension you are as well." "Why am I being reborn into a demon's realm? I'm just human. Shouldn't I be going to like heaven or hell?" "No, by your father's deeds we are tethered together in everything but body. Our power is shared, together through life and rebirth, never apart for eternity. That is the deal your daddy dearest evoked with the gods to defeat me in hopes that I would follow you into your afterlife. Fortunately, he was wrong. Once a demon, always a demon. Instead, you shall follow me." Again not getting the situation, Naruto. "So I'm a demon now, doesn't seem so bad. So we get to go back into the world, and I get a chance to return to Konoha and repay my father. A sweet deal to me, Kyuubi." "You are not a demon yet, still only a human, and do not call me Kyuubi. I have lost that name once my power was distributed in death. I am just Kiyomi, now my title of power is no more. I am the bottom of demons now. And we do not return to the human realm, we go to Makio, and only the strong can open the portals between them." The system of demons was about as clear as mud to Naruto. You're gonna have to explain demons from the beginning, Kiyomi-chan. Ignorant humans, since your survival ensures mine as well, I shall indulge you. She knelt to the ground and sat on her heels and motioned for Naruto to do the same. With both comfortably seated, she began her explanation. We demons were first born of a mighty deity. It was infinite in power, knowledge, and cruelty. This god only sought to destroy what other gods had created and nurtured. Many realms and worlds fell to the corrupt powers. Eventually all gods had gathered and shattered the powers and mind of the deity into infinite fragments, and sealed it away in the realm now named Makio. Over time the fragments grew from the pieces of the old god's mind and power to become sentient. They became demons, and all demons are drawn to fight and consume the blood of their brethren to become the deity once more. Many have overcome the urges to consume solely for the purpose of reforming the god, but the only way to gain more power is to drink of demon blood. I was one such demon who had failed to suppress the urge to reform. When I was at my strongest I had consumed the blood of thousands if not millions, and I sought out another who had such power as I did. That is what led me to your realm in search of the missing Jubi. I was not but a wild beast in search of food. That is where your world intersects with demons. Kiyomi stopped to clear her throat before she continued on, also giving Naruto a chance to ask any questions he had so far. Naruto's eyes were unfocused and he mulled over what Kiyomi had said, and many questions stood out. You said I am not a demon yet. How would I become a demon? And how would there still be demons if everyone kept killing each other? How are you still alive? Do you still have the urges to consume the demon blood? The demoness twirled her hair in thought and spoke. In the order you asked I will answer. To become a demon I must steal the fragment of power within another demon for yourself, which means I will drink the blood of another to give you a demon's body. We demons are just like humans. Once we have overcome the influence of the old god, we have emotions. Many find others who attract them and they reproduce more demons from their combined fragments. It is impossible for the shattered god to reform, as the other deities keep a close eye to the concentrations of fragments, and once a single demon reaches a billionth of the deity's full power they shatter that demon as well, and more demons are created from those fragments. How I am still alive is once your soul was released from your body, instead of your realm's ruling deity we were handled by the strongest demon of Makio, and to please those watching, I had two choices. The ruling demon would take my collected fragments and scatter them amongst all demons and we would simply cease to exist, or make a selfless choice of keeping your spirit alive along with mine. It also plays into your final question. Since we are now sharing my single shard, your knowledge and personality was able to suppress the urge and grant me lucidity. If not for you we would cease to exist until the demon who gained our shard had reached the point where the watching deities shatter it, and we reform. It could take infinite time before we would have been free. Even then we wouldn't know to be reborn. We would never exist again, simply nothing. I would have chosen my former state to try and hang on to every shard and fail. So for that I thank you. Kiyomi finished her answering with her head touching the white equivalent of the floor. The blonde's mind was officially blown. Drinking blood, demons having offspring. Kiyomi, whose power was already unfathomable, was not even a billionth of the deity's full power, himself being the reason for bringing her from insanity. It was all like some sick cosmic joke. Oh well, not much else could surprise Naruto now. That is a lot to take in, Kiyomi-chan, but I think I understand. Please continue. With a quick nod Kiyomi began. Where was I again? Ah yes, where our worlds connect. You see, Jubi was like me, wild, untamed, and most of all, powerful. From what I gathered in my searches through your world, there was a time when Jubi ran loose and released mighty attacks, and through its battles with humans it seems some fragments of the old god had bled from him and infused with humans, providing what your race called chakra and bloodlines. When one human was born with a particularly powerful combination of shards, he used his knowledge and power to force the Jubi into a hibernation through what your kind called genjutsu. Demons cannot use any chakra-based jutsu, except for changing the energy into a raw element, but the control for the element is not possible. Demons are weak to genjutsu since we cannot channel our energies as you humans can. With the Jubi asleep, he forced the slumbering demon into the sky. For centuries since then the body has stayed and been covered in dust and rock orbiting your world. It is now what you call the moon. As the centuries raged on and your race grew and expanded, the shards from Jubi have been split and diluted. Each person that dies and is buried is then reduced to dirt, which the plants grow from, and they themselves use the leftover power to create your nature chakra, as they have named it. Eventually your human chakra will dry up and bloodlines will cease to exist, since there is not enough of the god's power to provide them with those abilities. That is the history of demons and the beginning of chakra. Kiyomi finished her tale and stood to look upwards into the whiteness. It seems the tale ended just in time. We will be in Makio soon. When we exit we must find a demon to steal a shard from, so that you may have your own body. Until then you shall reside inside of me like I had in you before. Naruto felt a tingling sensation in his hands, only to look and see that his body was beginning to dematerialize and flow into the body of Kiyomi. He looked to his now eternal partner. I guess I'll see you when you find a shard. For the time we spoke I am glad I met you. And with that he was completely fused inside of the demoness, and he missed the slight blush on her face from his touching words. No one has spoken such kind words to me. I am glad I met you as well, Namake's Naruto. In the white limbo between dimensions, a large black portal opened before Kiyomi, and she confidently strode through as it closed behind her, and she was dropped out into Makio. Kiyomi landed in a graceful crouch, and the gravelly road gave a crunch under her slight weight. Hearing the sounds of lumbering footsteps, she quickly dashed into the nearby forest. Kiyomi, look out! Startled by the boy now inside her head, she stumbled and tripped on a raised tree root. Her sudden fall saved her from a large clawed hand from taking her head off. Bracing herself from her fall, she rolled into a crouch and saw many trees ahead of her, broken or huge trenches dug into them. Above, Kiyomi jumped to the side as a bear-sized demon crashed into where she just stood. Getting a good look at the hulking form, it had black skin that gave off no shine, large clawed hands hung off the tree trunks called arms, a large barrel chest reminiscent of a gorilla's, and large legs tipped with 3 toes tensed for a jump. But the human-like head is what drew the most attention. It had no eyes, only large gills on its neck and razor teeth that stuck out over both lips, clearly meant for tearing up flesh and not chewing grass. The overall form had no fat, only rippling muscle beneath the coal-colored skin. 1. The head of the beast swung to her direction and braced itself for takeoff. The demon's powerful legs kicked off, leaving potholes where the force of the jump became too great, and it shot at Kiyomi with claws outstretched, and sickly green slime poured from its mouth and trailed behind it. With an impressive limbo contest movement, Kiyomi leaned back when the beast flew over her, but the aggressive demon proved just as limber. Large clawed hands reached out and ripped into tree bark and swung around the trunk and came flying back at her. Rolling to the side, she quickly observed this demon was very acrobatic, as it would swing and leap from overhanging branches and make quick passes to try and kill her, increasing its speed by using centrifugal force and redirecting its trajectory, hoping to surprise the young demoness by the changes in direction and speed. Throughout the fight, Naruto was anything but idle during this battle. He was quickly watching the pattern the black demon had set up. It seemed some of the knowledge being fused with the mind of Kiyomi had passed off some of her centuries of intelligence onto the young blonde. This acrobatic demon liked to move in a clockwise pattern around Kiyomi and always struck with the same style. The right hand would always be the attacking hand, while the left was used for grappling the branches and tree trunks. The pattern and style now analyzed, Naruto decided to assist Kiyomi. Kiyomi, grab that branch from the ground and hold it just above your head in a stabbing position, and wait for my signal to thrust it down. Kiyomi acknowledged Naruto with a mental nod and snatched the branch while dodging another clawed swipe. Naruto's mind was going a mile a minute. Face the nearest tree to your left, and keep the branch ready. Just as Kiyomi had faced the tree, the onyx demon blasted off another tree and came with its claw ready. Stab now! Kiyomi thrust the branch straight down and through the head of the passing demon. The new force on the flying demon sent it to the ground and dug a large trench into the dirt. Falling still, the demon writhed and twitched as its nerves fired. Kiyomi, seeing it down, quickly jumped onto its back and took hold of the jaw and back of the head. A quick tug and pull, the neck snapped with a gunshot sound. The demon body finally stilled. Now for the blood. Rolling the demon over, Kiyomi flashed her sharpened fangs and tore into the throat with abandon. She swallowed it all. Blood, cartilage and flesh she greedily ate without care. The grass and dirt around the demon was quickly flecked with blood and gore. She gave into her wild side, and it was shown as once she had consumed most of the blood pouring from the open throat, she quickly ripped the chest cavity open. With a few quick snaps of the rib cage, she had her go at the heart and surrounding arteries and veins. Blood coated her entire body. Her face was a solid mask of crimson red. Her clawed fingers returned to perfectly manicured nails. Her hair now sticky with the cooling blood, she relished in the feeling of the victory once again, rejuvenated from the power of the old god flowing through her. Kiyomi sat back with a content sigh. Her moment of bliss was interrupted by the voice in her head. Kiyomi, we have the new power, what do we do? Shaking off the high that she got from the power, the demoness answered, you must take hold of the new power inside of me and will it to form you a body on the outside. So Naruto, inside her mental mindscape, looked for this new power. Inside the mindscape. If I was power, where would I hide? Naruto queried as he walked through the endless grassy plains lit by the full moon that represented Kiyomi's mind. Walking for what seemed hours through the small rolling hills, nothing but knee-high grass swaying gently with the breeze. Falling to his back, Naruto gazed at the beautiful moon constructed in the sky and the new twinkling stars surrounding it. Wait, stars? There weren't any stars before. With this new knowledge, the blonde reached his hand towards the sky and the stars moved and reacted to his beckoning. Half of the moving stars collected into his palm and the others rearranged themselves around the moon. The stars sunk into his palm and he felt the rush that accompanied them. Like a drug, he was hooked on that feeling. Closing his palm, he thought of his own body, a new one to house his now demonic soul. Outside the mindscape. Sensing the split of her power, Kiyomi moved into a larger clearing, and soon she saw the twinkling wisps exit from everywhere on her body and coalesced into a solid form in front of her. As the final floating wisp settled onto the humanoid form on the ground, it flashed bright like the sun, forcing her eyes to close. Opening them, she laid her sensitive eyes upon a magnificent godly form. Clad in only some loose brown pants, the new body of Naruto was amazing. Powerful ripped arms flowed into an equally ripped chest and abs. His once short spiky blonde hair now reached his shoulder, with some of it in a ponytail off the back of his head almost on top. His face when he was human had baby fat, but his new form had only the sharp facial features only displayed on a man in peak physical condition. Wrapped around his arms and chest were intricate red-blue tattoos that came and curled into sharp points on his pectorals, too. Kiyomi watched with rapt attention as Naruto blinked his eyes, and where sky-blue iris once hid now only in twin pools of red with orbs of black inside that quickly contracted to form a sharp elliptic shapes in each eye. Lifting himself into an upright position, Naruto flexed and stretched his new muscles out, testing their flexibility and strength. Satisfied that everything was in order, he laid his eyes upon his blood-covered partner. Maybe it was his new demonic side speaking, but she looked pretty damn sexy, layered all that crimson liquid. Shaking himself of his thoughts of how he would take Kiyomi, he looked over to the mangled form left of the coal-colored demon, feeling slightly unnerved by the carnage the innocent-looking blood-covered girl wrought upon it. "Hey Kiyomi, don't you think those sensory gills on its neck would be useful? Being able to sense everything around us?" Naruto questioned as he thought back to the effectiveness in battle they had displayed. "They could prove to be an advantage, but we do not gain their abilities from drinking their blood, only strength given from the god," was Kiyomi's calculative response, as she lost interest in the direction of the conversation, and she tried to sense nearby water to rinse off the blood. However, Naruto continued to stare at the corpse. Then he looked at his hand, then back at the corpse and back to his hand. With a shrug, he placed it upon a section of skin that wasn't drenched in blood. Concentrating on drawing in the residue demonic chakra, feeling the familiar sensation following the absorption, his mind was filled with the memories of the demon leaping from trees and drinking the blood of its slain foes. Naruto's mind assimilated everything, the muscle memory used in the acrobatic style of combat used by this feral demon. His body changed with the drawn-in powers, his once white skin grew darker, his nails lengthened and sharpened, the set of 3 gills on each side of the neck, even his muscles bulged a little to copy the creature. Finished with the absorption, Naruto released the corpse and sat on the blood-flecked grass. Naruto sitting in a meditative position was the sight Kiyomi walked back from her bath to and saw the darkened form. She watched with interest as the minutes passed, his skin lightened and nail retracted into his body, and his muscles lost their doubled mass till they were back to normal. Only the set of gills on his neck remained. Opening his eyes, Naruto stood and tentatively flared his gills and felt the area around him. Like sonar vision, the world outside of his eyesight popped into his head like a blurred picture without color. Slightly disorientated from the sudden awareness of his surroundings, he held his head, trying to control the gills to only be used when he wants them to. Getting it under control, he looked to Kiyomi and put on a cocky smile. "They are pretty useful, Kiyomi. You sure you don't want them?" Kiyomi's mouth hung open. This man simply rewrote what she knew about the boundaries of demons. With an action that was out of character, she grabbed Naruto's arms and proceeded to shake him and demanded him to teach her this ability. The blonde laughed as he was shaken by the goddess among demons. All right, I'll teach you." Kiyomi spent the rest of the day practicing the absorption technique on leaves so she could get a feel for it, and during their practice Naruto found he could subtly nudge Kiyomi's mind to perform the ability correctly, so she got a feel for what was supposed to happen. At the end of the long first day in Makio, they found a hollow tree trunk to sleep under. They would need all the energy to continue to seek out more demons. One day Konoha shall burn at Naruto's feet. The sun rose high into the orange morning sky, casting long shadows into the forested area of Makio. The sun rays finally reaching the hollow tree Naruto and Kiyomi were staying in. They wrestled Kiyomi from her best sleep yet. She opened her eyes with an angry scowl and found herself wrapped in the now muscular-toned arms of Naruto. Beating down a blush, she slipped from his naked upper body. Feeling a lot less warm and complete, she shook off the feeling and stood outside stretching, groaning at the pops and cracks that her back gave off. Kiyomi took a deep breath and reveled in the fresh air she had missed since she left for the human realm. Sitting herself down at the base of a tree, she began her training to control her dense demonic chakra enough to absorb things such as Naruto has done. Naruto shivered in his sleep when Kiyomi untangled their bodies. On the edge between awake and asleep, he tossed in his sleep to find the warmth and wholeness he once had, but unfortunately he would go without. Snarling at the pain the sunlight caused by stabbing at his retina, Naruto opened his twin crimson pools, his pupils fluctuating until settled upon being slits. With an exaggerated yawn showing off his large sharp canine teeth, Naruto stretched and flexed his muscles. Letting his gills appear and flare themselves, Naruto gained a quick summary of the area and saw Kiyomi sitting under a tree, turning the many green leaves and objects around her brown. Making quick strides, he took a seat next to Kiyomi. Naruto watched Kiyomi concentrate on the small piece of vegetation between her delicate fingers. Slowly but surely he could see the fresh green color drain away like wet paint washing off a wall. Without even thinking, the blonde put his hands over hers and lets his own energy flow with hers. Where their hands met, the deep ocean blue of Naruto's chakra began to mix with the raging red of Kiyomi's. Like a magical dance inspired by the wind, the chakra danced and swirled, intermingling and forming a whole new royal purple color. Like a thick liquid, the chakra dripped from their hands, and where each drop fell, the grass would flourish and grow. Suddenly, coming from the euphoric feeling she got from their chakra intermingling and flowing between them, she pulled her hands to her chest and pushed herself up from the spot next to Naruto. With the sudden movement, suddenly her entire world changed form. All that she saw was now overlapped by a static picture, and everything around her being the same. The sudden disorientation caused her to buckle and fall to the ground, coughing and retching, the sensation of extreme vertigo overwhelming her. Seeing his partner suddenly collapse, Naruto moved next to her. Kiyomi, are you alright? Speak to me. He saw that her once perfect ivory-colored neck now had a set of gills, and those gills were flaring erratically. Placing a hand over each side, he forced his chakra into her, and with a practiced method willed the gills to relax and recede. Slowly Kiyomi gained her equilibrium and steadied her vision, moving from the tiny puddle of bile and saliva she threw up. Naruto grabbed hold of her and picked Kiyomi up bridal style and set her next to the tree. Kiyomi lay there and looked into the worried eyes of Naruto. It seems when we mixed chakra I received your absorbed gill ability. A deep sigh escaped Naruto and a small smile graced his lips. I guess so. How are you feeling? I am feeling fine, do not be so concerned, I have experienced worse. Kiyomi responded with a haughty tone. The smile left the blonde's face, hearing her disregard him like he was stupid. Apparently I can control the transformations with some well-applied chakra. Now you just need to learn how to control the changes. Kiyomi ran her fingers through the lengths of fire-red hair hanging over her shoulder. Seeing the beautiful smile leave Naruto's face upset her, and she couldn't figure it out why she was upset. She was once a bloodthirsty, all-powerful demon. Emotions shouldn't affect her, she is above it. Naruto watched her play with her hair. She looked so perfect. He used to think his friends back in Konoha were perfect. Thinking back to Konoha, the now demon man was set straight. He received a second chance, a chance to grow faster and stronger, a chance to avenge his wrongful murder by his own family, a chance to kill. He wouldn't waste this. He will be powerful enough. He will return to Konoha. Standing up, he flared his gills and sensed another nearby demon. It was small, but every little bit counted. Darting off, Naruto headed right towards it, scanning ahead, analyzing everything around him to find every escape route and close it off from his prey. In a clearing, the slender form of a demoness with small horns protruding from her pale green hair, she busied herself with foraging the small berry bush, gently placing the small berries into her basket. Sensing an incoming presence, she whipped around to see the chiseled form of Naruto spring from a tree. Quickly jumping to the side to avoid him, she dropped her basket's contents into the grass below. The demoness didn't stand a chance before she could get to her feet and run. Naruto was already on top of her with his hands around her neck. The woman looked fearfully into the blood-red slits of her assailant and rasped out, "Please, I have a family, don't do this." Naruto's slitted eyes dilated a bit as he stared into the pleading eyes of his victim. Is this really worth it? To end the life of this woman and her family so I can have my revenge? Quickly his mind was bombarded with the memory of all his friends smiling and cheering at his execution, all the insults and taunts, the look of pure happiness on his father's face as he stomped on his chest. Yes, this is definitely worth it. The woman saw his eyes soften and his grip slacken for a moment. Relief and happiness spread through her small body. She would get to go see her family again. But just as suddenly his eyes sharpened and his grip came back stronger, resigned to her fate, and tears poured from her eyes until her struggling and tears stopped. Naruto saw his victim either lose consciousness or die. He quickly replaced his hands with his fangs and began to rip and feast on the flesh and blood that poured from the open wound. Blood filled his senses. He only felt, smelt, saw, tasted, and heard the sound of it. Consumed by this feeling, he quickly began to gorge himself on everything he could get his claw into. Much more gruesome than Kiyomi's display, he ate all he could, snapping the frail bones of his victim and scrapped all the marrow he could. Unknown to Naruto, he had an audience of one. Kiyomi watched her eternal partner strip the body of everything consumable, and then use his absorption to take everything she knew. Even she hadn't been this thorough in drinking the blood, but Naruto went for every drop from every vein and artery. The ground was drenched in blood. Many plants and other vegetation would grow in that spot, to forever lay as the marking for the murdered demoness. Naruto looked over his blood-soaked body, and without even knowing it, his chakra flowed out of his body and pushed all the blood from his pants and off his skin till he was back into pristine condition, not a hair out of place. Snapping his head to the tree, Kiyomi was crouched near. He called out, "I know you have been watching me. Is this not how it is done to gain their strength?" Walking out into the clearing, the demoness stood on the edge staring at Naruto. Yes, That is how to do it, but I have never seen any demon at the level of savagery and aggression that you displayed. Naruto's eyes sharpened into thin slits once again. So I am more savage and primitive than a demon. It is good to know your point of view. I thought you wanted to regain your lost power to attain what you once had. Am I not accomplishing both our goal this way? The blonde shouted. Kiyomi was startled by his assumptions. They were spot on, but now that she had lucidity and control over her urge to kill, she wasn't as desperate as Naruto seemed to be to regain power. She was planning on wandering Makio and find other feral demons to slay. There was no need to attack the more peaceful of demons. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't seem to see a problem with killing any demon he came across. Seeing no response, Naruto turned to the direction his victim's home was. If I am such a savage, then do not follow, because I plan to finish what I have started. With those words, he dashed into the thick brush outside the clearing, making naught but a sound towards his next victims. For once in her eternal life, Kiyomi was scared. Her partner Naruto seemed to have the bloodthirst of a feral demon, but the intelligent mind of a more domestic demon. A truly terrifying combination indeed. Shortly after, her thoughts were invaded by the terrified screams. Cut short, they would haunt her for many nights to come. 3 years later. And what a long 3 years it was. There wasn't a day yet Naruto returned to normal from his second day in Makio. He was never the same. Maybe it was the demonic whisperings of his mind, or he simply did anything he wanted because he could. Kiyomi could still hear the screams of children and parents alike as Naruto tore apart and razed the first home. Flashback. Zipping through the trees with the grace and agility of a monkey, Naruto swung from tree to tree, pushing off branches, causing only the sound of rustling leaves from the powerful leg muscles shaking the trees. He quickly came upon the small log hut, and large man and 3 small children ran around laughing and yelling, seeing the built man with horns that came from the top of his head and swooped back towards a neck. Shaggy black hair covered the base of the horns, and piercing black eyes scanned the tree line, showing he sensed Naruto's approach. Quickly ushering the 3 small demons inside the hut, he called, "Show yourself. How did you find this place?" Swiftly dropping onto the grass, Naruto walked from the shade, some blood still wet in the corners of his mouth. He gave a cruel fanged smile and inhaled deeply, looking past the man. "And at the home, your family will help me in my path of revenge. Whether you resist or not, I will take from you everything," he said as he took slow, calculated step towards the horned man. "What are you talking about? Leave now, you have no business here," the raven-haired man said as he took a guarded stance. Naruto quickly saw the man shift and began to laugh. "You wish to know how I found this place, correct? Well, I suppose I can show you." Closing his slitted red eyes, his shape slowly changed, his hair turned pale green and his muscles slimmed out and his height shortened until he looked identical to the woman he tore apart and consumed just minutes ago. "Please, Asako, don't resist." Naruto called out the man's name he gleaned from his victim's memories. "Nananami, what is going on?" Naruto slowly walked to the man still in the form of the now named Nanami and reached his arms out like he wanted a hug, and the man, clearly confused, accepted the hug. During the embrace, Naruto's form returned to normal and the demon man felt the change, looking down and seeing Nanami no longer there but the man from before. Asako didn't even know what had hit him before a clawed hand was through his stomach wall and clenched around his innards tightly. Ripping his hand from the surprised demon, Naruto quickly tackled him and began his gorging of blood and flesh once again, just as ravenous and messy. Asako let out a barely audible exhale of air as his life-giving liquid was pumped from his body by a frantic heartbeat. With pieces of flesh and blood scattered in every direction was the scene the 3 children saw as they peeked out from the crack in the door. The oldest of the 3 grabbed both their mouths shut before they could scream and dragged them away from the door, holding them as they tried to scream through the hands, hurrying to the exit furthest away from the door. They barely stepped out, and Naruto was already in front of them, grinning madly. The 3 children quickly dashed away from the crazed blonde murderer, screaming the whole way, and quickly each screaming child was brought down and killed with minimal blood loss, snapping of the neck or a punch with enough force to cause cerebral hemorrhaging. Naruto seemed to have learned from his previous 2 kills and sought to preserve all the power-giving liquid without giving it to the soil. After finishing his meal, he used demonic chakra to set the entire house and bodies ablaze. The raging red fire flickered and reflected off his blood-red iris, his white teeth shining against the flames. Naruto never forgot to absorb every bit of knowledge and physical trait afforded to him by his victims. You never know when someone will know a secret. End flashback. The red-haired demoness still shuddered to think about how Naruto came back from his hunt. She shouldn't be affected by the way Naruto acted. She was once the same, but it got to her more than she would be willing to admit. She was terrified of Naruto, and at the same time terrified for him. One night Naruto returned to her with a wild, lustful look in his twin blood pools. Flashback. Entering the makeshift hut, Naruto growled deep within his chest as he looked at the lithe form of Kiyomi kneeling next to a fire, turning the coals and stoking the small flame. Quickly grabbing her by the waist, he pulled her flush to his muscled body and let the vibrations from his growling entice her. Kiyomi's eyes widened as she could practically taste the raw lust wafting off Naruto. Pushing away from his body, Kiyomi freed herself and stood across from the lust-filled demon. Naruto, stop, leave and take a swim in the river. A sly smile played on his lips. You don't see how this is going to work, do you? Naruto stalked around Kiyomi. I'm not asking to do this. As the strongest, I am forcing you. Kiyomi made a break for the exit to let Naruto cool off. Unfortunately, with him being stronger, he was also faster. Cutting off her path to freedom, he grabbed her arm forcefully and threw her to the ground. Making short work of the deep blue kimono and matching bra and panties, he began to knead her and said, "You will serve me whenever I ask." The tears flowed from her crimson eyes. Kiyomi was a virgin since never wanting it when she was feral. It seemed Naruto would take her here and now. She couldn't escape, so she begged Naruto, "Don't do this. Please stop." Suddenly everything was quiet except the sobbing from Kiyomi. Opening her bloodshot eyes, she saw the unfocused and devoid of life Naruto. Inside Naruto's head, thousands of memories played, spanning his entire 18 years of life both as human and demon. All the faces of those he once loved and the face of all those he had slaughtered in his quest for revenge, and it all stopped at one particular scene. A younger Naruto sitting in the chair listening as his entire world was torn down and burned around him. He screamed, "I haven't done anything." Coming back to the real world, Naruto's once slitted eyes dilated back into circular pupils. His eyes darted around, taking into full view what he was attempting to commit. Quickly rolling to his heels, he sprung up and towards the door. His eyes spoke everything his mouth didn't say: confusion, regret, and most of all, fear. End flashback. Ever since that night, Kiyomi would only see Naruto in passing. He seemed to stay away from her. She never had another incident like that again. Each and every morning, Kiyomi would feel different, slightly more powerful, and new things she didn't know before. Only after staying alert all night did she find out why. In the dark just before dawn, she would find Naruto looking haggard and disheveled enter the small hut she made, and he would sit next to her, and his unfocused gaze would stare at her. After what seemed hours, he would gently grab her hand and begin pushing his chakra through her, regulating his power into her. All the knowledge he gained from his daily hunting. Physical traits and beneficial anomalies he would transfer. One of the major changes she found was she could manipulate many animals, insects, and even a fellow demon she came across. Coming along with the mental manipulation, she could now feel Naruto's surface emotions and the gist of his thoughts, most of them involving his revenge. But she would sense some deeper thoughts on becoming a god and having absolute power. Strange enough, she would try to wake up just before he came. She loved the feeling of warmth and wholeness she got from Naruto's ocean blue chakra flowing into her. Kiyomi never told Naruto that she knew of his nightly visits, fearing he would stop. Back with Naruto and Kiyomi. Finally, after 3 long years, Naruto's aggressive approach to gathering power had paid off. Today was the day the final requirements were met for a successful hold to be torn between realms. Kiyomi could feel Naruto's eagerness to cross over, his unrestrained power flowing off him in waves like a heartbeat. It only got stronger and faster when she began the ritual. To open a portal, the elements of each hole in space must be balanced, fire to fire, water to water, and so on. Opening a portal was actually very simple if a demon on each side could provide the elements, but to do it alone is why it required more power than most demons could gain. To manifest the elements needed in a different realm took more than Kiyomi had alone, but with Naruto next to her ready to give his chakra, it would go off without a hitch. Slowly but surely you could see the tear in space form, beginning with just a distortion in the air like looking the water. It began to grow, and soon you could see a rain forest with a miasma of fog settling along the ground. It was a sight to behold from the human world. The air itself seemed to tear apart to show a window into Makio. Naruto stepped through the tear in space with Kiyomi not far behind as the portal stitched itself back together. Naruto took a deep inhale of the thick humid air, quickly ascertaining where this climate would be. They were in the land of water. A large feral smile crossed Naruto's lips. "I am back, Konoha, your time is near an end," he shouted to the sky. Naruto stepped through the tear in space with Kiyomi not far behind as the portal stitched itself back together. Naruto took a deep inhale of the thick humid air, quickly ascertaining where this climate would be. They were in the land of water. A large feral smile crossed Naruto's lips. "I am back, Konoha, your time is near an end," he shouted to the sky. It seemed the elements themselves responded to his declaration as the wind picked up and dark rain clouds rolled in with lightning flashing through the sky. The concussive thunderclaps felt on the ground. Kiyomi shielded her eyes from the hard rainfall and whipping winds. From her limited vision and hearing, she could see and hear Naruto's loud laughter in between the thunder. Soon enough, Naruto got himself under control and called out, "Kiyomi, let's move. I wish to see all that has changed since I was last alive. Maybe pick up a few new skills for us to utilize. Any?" With those words, large leathery black wings erupted from his back in a haze of darkness. After wrapping his arms around Kiyomi's waist, he gave a powerful flap of his wings and took to the sky with his demoness partner clutching to him tightly. As they sailed high above the ground, Kiyomi couldn't help but snuggle slightly into the chest of her partner. Don't get it wrong, she was still afraid he might one day turn his sights on her like he had done a few years back, but the feeling she got from being close to him was worth the danger. Naruto felt his partner shift in his python-like grip, Kiyomi's head resting just below his chin. Her scent filling his nose, his pupils began to contract and sharpen into thinner slits. Thinking quickly before he lost his remaining common sense, he shifted his entire body from the human shape to that of a large bat-like creature. His feet elongated and claws formed on his long toes. His long blonde hair shortened and created a mane reaching down his back, and his fangs shifting into sharp points. With his transformation complete, he dropped his passenger from his strong arms and gently caught her with his powerful talons, careful to not scratch her perfect ivory skin. Flying swiftly into the night sky, Naruto's demon-powered hearing could pick up the sounds of fighting and clashing weapons. Taking a hard left turn, he swooped down into a marsh. Watching the many ninja leap around and release jutsu all over, Naruto thought it was amusing to watch these ants fight amongst themselves. Seeing the chance to pick up the knowledge of recent happenings, he lifted Kiyomi from his talons and flipped her onto his back. "Geez, Naruto, learn to be a little more gentle with a lady," Kiyomi said as her equilibrium was thrown off by being flipped around. "And I will when I find one." It seemed even after 3 years he was still a smartass. Hearing Naruto be sarcastic, it was rare and shown he still wasn't all changed. "There is still hope for you, Naruto," Kiyomi thought as she hugged him from her piggyback position. Spotting a downed ninja in the mist and biju gear, Naruto angled downwards for a quick snatch up. It must have been a surprise to all who witnessed it. The Anbu stood holding his side until a large leathery form crashed into him. Quickly latching onto the ninja's shoulders, Naruto gave a few powerful flaps of his mighty wings and took off into the sky. While the ninja struggled in his tightening grip, Naruto took a firm hold of his head and began to absorb everything he knew, from his secret bondage fetish to the high-level rebel prisoner locked beneath the Mizukage Tower, and everything in between, including the biju sealed within the Mizukage himself. Naruto cut hard and aimed for the battleground. Seeing as he had gathered what he wanted, flew near the earth and plunged the ninja head first into the dirt, quickly shredding the skin and cartilage from the one side of his face, and many cracks were heard in succession as each vertebrae were smashed into each other, compacting the spine from being 18 inches to being 10. A large bloody trench was left in Naruto's wake. The gruesome scene startled each of the combating ninjas, and the fight quickly turned into a retreat on both sides. Deciding to share his newfound knowledge, he let his deep ocean blue chakra seep from his body and into Kiyomi. From the ground it looked like a blue shooting star racing across the dark sky. Quickly assimilating the knowledge of all jutsu, chakra regulation exercises, and information, Kiyomi quickly supplied her thoughts on what she felt Naruto was already thinking. "The three-tailed turtle will be weakened inside of a Jinchuriki," Kiyomi said. "Excellent, then it will be our next stepping stone to Konoha," Naruto responded. Flapping his wings quicker to gain altitude, he coasted along the air currents towards his destination, Kirigakure. Deep beneath the Mizukage Tower, Meitarumi sat shackled to the chakra-sapping wall. Her once pristine-styled auburn hair now lay lifeless around her due to lack of bathing and combing. Mei's light green eyes seemed dull in the low-lit cell. Thinking of how she got here further depressed her. Flashback 2 months. This was it. The final siege on Kirigakure. It would determine the victor in this blood-stained rebellion, the forces of the Mizukage versus the rebel factions. Each sought dominance in the same territory, but only one could remain. "Yagura, stop this, your forces dwindle and only Kirigakure remains for bastion of safety." Mei spoke. She wanted to spare everyone from this battle. "I am sorry, Meitarumi, but I will not lose this war. Once your rebellion has been quelled, Kiri will be ushered into a new era. Chizuru no Sato will become a power to be feared." "So be it, Yagura. Today I will destroy your corrupt government, and end our village's bloody ways." With those words, each opposing sides clashed. Water jutsu flew overhead, washing away many ninja. The dirt became mud from the water and blood soaking the ground. Screams of agony were abundant across the battlefield as limbs were removed by sharp weapons and dislocated or torn off from the high-pressured water being spewed. But the fight between titans was only just beginning. Separated from the rest of the common ninja stood one shinobi and one kunoichi. Their eyes spoke of determination and the will to achieve victory through any means. Standing 20 yards apart, their gazes bore into each other, waiting for the first attack. Then it happened. Like a clash of thunder, they clashed, holding their opponent's fist. Mei grabbed the forearm of Yagura and went for a shoulder toss. Yagura was unfazed. While upside down in the air, he began to make signs for Jutsu Suiton. Ashitama, the powerful stream of water, tore up the ground, leaving deep gouges in the land. Jumping to the left, Mei avoided the water jutsu and began her own yoton. Ryuki Nami making a sweeping motion with her hands, the earth quickly became molten lava. As the lava moved, it gained speed and height, picking up more molten ground. The Mizukage watched on with an uninterested gaze as the wave of burning death raged towards him. Holding out his hands, the green chakra of Sanbai burst into life around him. As the lava touched his outstretched hands, he made the motion of opening curtains, and the lava split, and quickly fell on either side of him. Yagura walked towards the stunned Mei until he saw her face of fear turn into confidence. Quirking an eyebrow, he followed her gaze to his arm. Flipping it over, he saw the intricate design of a seal written on paper stuck to his pale skin. Eyes widening upon the realization of what that seal does, he went for the corner of it to rip it off, but with the ram sign from Mei, it dissolved into his skin. His body felt searing hot pain as his biju's power were forced back through his chakra gates and into his seal. Yagura's lapse in concentration was all Mei needed to take the upper hand. Dashing to him, she planted a firm punch to his solar plexus, forcing his breath out and his body off the ground. She followed her strike with a downward elbow to the back of his head. Yagura's mind was swimming in the pain his chakra coils burned from the seal's doing, and he was pretty sure his skull was cracked from either the powerful elbow to his head or the force of hitting the ground face first. Rolling to the side, he dodged the heel drop from his opponent, which dented then ground under the force. Holding his hairline fractured ribs, Yagura felt true fear for the first time in a long time. It seemed his biju that once was an asset was now a weakness against this opponent. Mei never gave him the chance to retaliate. She gave him a split kick to his jaw, sending him high into the air. With a powerful jump, she stopped his ascent with snap kick to his side, throwing him many yards away. Tumbling across the dirt, Yagura came to a stop facing the sky as the dark clouds of late night shower loomed overhead. Pushing himself into a kneeling position, he could feel each of his injuries throbbing painfully. His mask of indifference had long been cracked, and the pain he felt was shown on his face. Mei stood 10 yards in front of the prone form of the Mizukage. Yagura, for the acts you have committed and guided, you will die on this battlefield. Pulling a kunai from her robes, she went for a quick slice of the jugular or carotid artery, but her hand was caught by her second-in-command Ao. With the kunai stopped, Ao thrust his index and middle finger into the pharynx of Mei, closing off the air supply and ability to talk. Mei's confusion turned to fear as she could feel her body quickly trying to get her much-needed air. Her chest heaved, trying to draw in breath. Her stomach muscles began to violently contract to help the diaphragm. All her body's efforts were in vain as his vision darkened and the cold grip of unconsciousness tightened its hold. She could hear Ao say, "Attacking the Mizukage is treason." Flashback end. So with herself captured and the rebel forces scattered and unorganized, it seemed Yagura defeated her years of effort through the person she thought she could trust most. Quietly sobbing at her failure, she failed to notice the tall blonde man and fire-haired woman seeming to walk through the walls. Crunch! Mei pulled her tear-stained hands from her face and saw a shirtless man ripping the chains from the solid chakra-reinforced concrete walls. Her shock was compounded on when he knelt down and tore the cuffs around her petite wrists like they were tissue paper. The tall blonde stared right into Mei's twin green pools. "Are you Mei Terumi, high security prisoner number 0334? Mei's voice was soft and strained from 2 months of silence and poor hydration. "Yeah, I'm Mei. Who are you?" Naruto stood up. "Who I am is unimportant." The yellow-haired man continued to stare into her eyes. "What is important is what you know of the Sanbai." Even after her solitary confinement, she still held the mental acuity to gain something. "What will I get from telling you what I know?" While she spoke, Naruto briefly pondered on why he didn't just drain her knowledge and leave without all this talking. His eyes sharpened at her ploy of extortion. "I do not have to make deals with your kind. You will tell me, or I will forcefully take what I want and leave you to rot in this cell until death." The blonde voice was almost a shout and held the sound of cold, hard truth to back his claim. Mei's softened eyes flickered over to her apparent rescuer's companion with long red hair, a woman clothed in a deep blue kimono who seemed uneasy and shifted her weight from one leg to the other and twirled her hair between her fingers. When Mei focused on Naruto again, she saw his boring gaze waiting for an answer. Mei could tell when not to tempt this man. She quickly spilled what she knew. "Yagura is the Jinchuriki of the Sanbai. He uses its power almost exclusively to strike fear into his opponents and sow chaos among his enemies. I had studied his combat style and abilities extensively so that one day I could face him in battle and take the title of Mizukage from him." Mei continued on with more details of his preferred tai and ninjutsu. Naruto remembered everything he ever heard or saw. His intelligence and comprehensive powers were far past what most would see as genius. When Mei finished her lecture on Yagura's powers, he turned to his partner, and they walked back through the wall like it wasn't even there. Mei saw them leave and felt disappointed. She thought that if he had left her alive, he should have taken her or killed her for fear of her telling Yagura of him. The Yotan princess sat against the wall. Escape was not an option. Her chakra was low from constantly being drained and the amount of ninjas she would face. She would die before she saw daylight. Not a moment after her resignation to waiting for death, a petite pale hand reached from the wall behind her, took a hold of her shoulder, and dragged her back through the solid rock. When the guards checked on her cell, they would find no trace of her, not a hair, scent, or chakra trail. She simply vanished into the rock wall. Back in Konoha. Over the last 3 years, Rain Namikaze was in poor shape. Her once vibrant red hair was listless and fell around her head. She had gotten a lot less than the recommenced hours of sleep over the past 3 years. Her dreams were haunted by the gutted form of her supposed non-existent elder brother. Her nightmares would always bring her back to the village market square where the demon's execution occurred. The world would be frozen, only herself and Kyubi would be mobile. Her father would be frozen mid-stomp and her brother would stand with blood still dripping from his neck wound and just stare into her eyes like he was searching her very soul. No words were spoken, no matter how desperately she wished to speak and yell at him. Her dreams would feel like hours. They were silent and almost perfectly still, just Naruto focused on her. Minato and Kushina had seen the change in their daughter after the death of Kyubi, and thought maybe she was having nightmares of it coming back, so they sought the help of Inochi Yamanaka to diagnose her, and hopefully help her get some sleep. All the therapy and mind jutsu did nothing to discover her problem. She never told them her nightmares were of the execution day of Kyubi. He was the forbidden topic for her parents. Although recently her dreams had begun to worsen, instead of the world-frozen Kyubi would begin to fight back against her father's stomps or the execution itself, and each time she dreamed of his resistance he would be stronger and fight harder until finally the demon broke free. Kyubi began to slaughter everyone until only they remained. His blood-covered hands reached out to touch her cheek so close she could feel the warmth of the blood on his hands. "Rei, wake up, you're going to be late for training, you know your father doesn't like to be kept waiting," Kushina yelled from the hallway, successfully ending her nightmare. Groaning in approval at the abrupt end to the worst dream she has had in 3 years, Rei dressed in her standard uniform she received from her mother. "All right, Mom," she shouted back. With her outfit properly fitted and tightened to prevent any malfunctions, she looked over herself in the mirror and briefly saw her deceased brother with the grim look of determination he had on the day of his execution. She had never seen him once in her life before that day in the council room. Minato talked incessantly about the Kyubi biding time in Konoha and about how once the deity-powered Fuinjutsu fully melded her brother and the demon together forever, they could return to their rightful home and live happily. Shaking away the memories of her family's sacrifice, she left her modest room, down the stairs, and settled herself into a chair at the dining room table for breakfast. Glancing at the clock, she shoveled the rest of breakfast into her open mouth and sprinted out the door and quickly sped down the road to the training grounds, dodging people left and right. Today was the day her father would begin to teach her his famous oration, but first she must go over all she was taught, her nin, tai, gen, and fuinjutsu. Rei was trained as all aspects of the kunoichi to perfection. She was a representative of the Hokage by blood. She would excel above all others. She was a Namikaze. With Naruto. Many miles from Kirigakure, slowly rising from the ground, Kiyomi and Naruto stood tall while Mei collapsed to the ground, taking large gulps of air. "What the asterisk gasp hell was that?" Mei yelled as best she could. Kiyomi, looking at her fellow female, gave a soft laugh. "That, my little jailbird, was Tsuchiryuku, earth travel. It is the greatest way to move around undetected." Naruto paid no attention to his companions, closed his eyes and took a couple deep breaths, his gills once again flaring into life. His world was painted around him, seeing everything around him from small insects to large mammals foraging around the humid forest. Sensing no one within his large awareness, his gills sealed up and once again were soft, pale skin. Tuning his gaze to the two beauties before him, Naruto felt the primal urges rising to take them both like he had tried to Kiyomi years back. Pushing those instincts from his mind, he could still see the fear etched into the crimson eyes of Kiyomi. A deep sense of regret filled his emotions before he thought back to his execution, his murder by his own father. If only the rage he felt could kill, then he would walk right to Konoha. But Naruto must bide his time and take away everything from Konoha before dealing the final deadly blow. With the strong emotions Kiyomi could read from Naruto, she felt his lust, the regret, but they both dimmed to make way for the deep hatred that bubbled up to the surface. Such a powerful emotion quickly crippled Kiyomi's sensory ability. Her mind began shutting down every other sense to compensate for the overload. Losing her equilibrium to the experience, she stumbled and latched onto the nearest object to stabilize her, which happened to be the sturdy arms of Naruto. Catching her quickly once he felt the sudden weight, holding her gently once more, his eyes hardened and his more animalistic features began to form. Again catching himself before he did something unwanted, he set the demoness on her feet and covered his nose in an attempt to stop the lust-inducing aroma wafting off his partner. Watching the scene with a critical eye, Mei saw how her savior seemed to react to the other female, seeing this as a good time to interject. "So what are your names?" Kiyomi, partially distracted by the feelings and clips of thought she picked up from Naruto, answered, "I am Kiyomi, and the muscled man is Naruto Yuzu," was all she got out before the aforementioned man interrupted. "It is just Naruto." Watching the setting sun, it calmed the burning embers Naruto felt simmering inside of him. "Come, let's find a place to stay the night. We will make plans to kill Yagura tomorrow." Those words resonated deep within Mei, her humiliating defeat by her own subordinate. Now Mei sought to simply destroy both Mizukage and Ao. The blonde flooded Yukai around his being, triggering a transformation. His powerful bone wings sprouted from his back, accompanied with a large barbed tail growing from the base of his spine, which by the looks of the tip meant only death to those struck. His bare feet lengthened and toes formed into large 3 talons facing forward. Naruto's red iris expanded till his scara was bathed in red as well. His hair formed into a shaggy lion's mane of sorts. Letting loose a shock-inducing roar, Naruto's transformation was complete. I haven't been in this form in months. Gesturing to his now open arms, he intended for those two to find a suitable place to hold onto. Mei's mouth was wide open at this impossible feat before her. Kiyomi was unfazed by the chimera form he took. She quickly wrapped Naruto's left arm around her and called to the still stunned Mei, "You should grab on or we're leaving you behind." That seemed to shake her from her stupor, and Mei latched onto his right side. Leaning forward, Naruto flexed his wings upwards till just the tips touched, and then with a powerful downbeat of his wings they lifted up into the air, quickly ascending past the tree line and further into the orange-dyed sky. Mei screaming the whole way. "Well, stop it, you won't fall," came the transformed man's voice. Closing her light green eyes, Mei took a couple steadying breaths, and when she reopened her emerald pools it was like being in heaven. The soft white clouds gave off a tangerine color from the setting sun, and the cool upper atmospheric air rushed past her face and uncovered legs. The thick rolling clouds once seemed far above a ninja's touch were now only a hair's breadth away. Reaching out her delicate hands into a passing nimbus, the condensation collected on her palms. Mei felt at peace, and nothing mattered anymore, not the fate of Kiri or Yagura, not even the muscular god amongst men holding her waist tightly. Quickly hiding her blushing red face, she turned to look at more clouds. Alas, this feeling came to an end, and Naruto closed his wings for an aerial dive to the gigantic inactive volcano that created this massive island. Landing on a flat shelf, Naruto set his 2 companions down while he moved to the rock face. A few moments before Naruto created the cave, Mei had another question. "Kiyomi back in the prison, what did he mean by my kind?" Kiyomi suppressed a yawn and stretched. "It's exactly what you think, we aren't human." "Then what are you?" Naruto input his part to the answer without looking from the rock. "We are demons." Placing his strong hands upon it, he forced Yukai into the shape he desired, and before their eyes it opened up into a small but cozy cave. Kiyomi rushed past Naruto and quickly transformed her clothes into thinner nightwear, and found a raised section to the cave and stretched out before quickly succumbing to sleep. Mei moved at a much more sedated pace. She noticed Naruto never entered the cave and instead slept outside. Shrugging to herself, she was too interested at the moment. Finding another flat space above the floor, she lay down and stretched for the first time since she was imprisoned. Comfortably positioned, her eyes fluttered until she too fell into blissful sleep. Mei opened her bleary eyes to the shaded ceiling of the cave. Wiping the sleep from her face, she glanced over to Kiyomi, who knelt on her bed perfectly still. Opening her mouth to say something, Mei found Kiyomi answered the question before she could ask. "I am meditating to concentrate on reading the thoughts of Naruto." Mei's face was the picture of confusion. Why does she need to? She was brought from her thoughts by Kiyomi answering her unasked question. "Read the thoughts of Naruto. Since we arrived in the land of water and closer to Naruto's desire of revenge, his chakra, when mixed with mine, has begun to feel dark and angry. It is coarse against my chakra and harder to work with." Mei wondered how Yagura was his object of revenge. What does Naruto have against Yagura? And how are you reading my thoughts? Letting out a soft, angelic laugh, Kiyomi humored the mortal. "Oh, Yagura is but a stepping stone to Naruto in his quest for vengeance. As for my ability, I acquired it along our travels and it does suit our needs." "What is his ultimate goal if the sandbite plays a role?" "Obviously killing someone, correct?" Mei questioned. "And if you learn how to read minds, then you must be able to impart the knowledge onto others?" Kiyomi merely wagged an index finger as if to scold a young child. "Such secrets aren't mine to tell. As for my mind reading, it would be hard to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced what Naruto and I share." "Oh yeah, and what exactly do you share?" Mei huffed out at being blocked off from finding out her savior's objective. "To put it simply, we are 2 beings bound as one for an eternity together." "Huh!" was Mei's intelligent reply to the answer that had a far deeper meaning and history than she knew. "Were you always bound together?" "No, we were once apart. I was a mighty and powerful demon. He was just—" Kiyomi never finished because a large bear thudded against the ground between them. Turning their heads, they saw the imposing winged form of Naruto silhouetted against the rising sun. Receding his wings, Naruto used his naturally sharpened nails to begin skinning and peeling back the fur from the bear. "I was human," the blonde said coldly. Blurting out her question, "Then how did you become stuck together, and Naruto yourself change into demon?" If you could watch Naruto's emotions on a line graph, you would see that at usual flat line changed drastically at the uttering of her words. It would be spiking and just keep going up along with the rage he felt. The female duo could practically hear Naruto's teeth grinding and cracking under the severe pressure they were under, and just as quickly Yukai would cover the crack, knit the tooth back to normal, and the process would repeat. The scraps of skin held in Naruto's hands bubbled and liquefied, pooling on the ground. Yesterday Kiyomi was nearly incapacitated by just Naruto thinking about Konoha, but when someone indirectly brought up his every feeling of betrayal and pain from his human life, now Kiyomi's body sought to stop this, and it automatically began trying to force the disturbance away with nudges and mental prods to leave. Naruto's mind registered the suggestions Kiyomi sent as being his own, and he stood from his spot and walked for the exit, leaping high into the morning sky with his black and bone wings erupting from his back mid-leap, and he zoomed into the clouds and was out of sight within seconds. The sky rumbled and thundered as the sun was blocked out by the darkening rain clouds. Kiyomi relaxed as the mental barrage stopped, and she could hear her own thoughts and properly breathe. Looking over to the human female, Mei was flat on her back, hyperventilating, being so close to an explosion of hate-filled Yukai. The half-skinned bear was mostly liquefied, like someone has poured acid over the flesh. "What was that?" Mei shouted once she steadied her heart rate. Naruto is mentally scarred from his life as a human, and his anger was only amplified upon the sealing process being incomplete, Kiyomi said sadly as she nursed a headache. "What sealing process?" Kiyomi sighed and supposed if Mei was to tag along on this adventure, then she should know who it is she is dealing with. "I was once the Kyuubi no Yoko's second most powerful demon to cross the dimensional lines and ravage this world. She began. Naruto was once my Jinchuriki. The seal used by the Yondaime Hokage was unlike any other before. This one was powered by the gods themselves to one day merge our spirits together, and when Naruto died I would follow him into death and beyond." "What do you mean once were the Kyuubi?" Kiyomi could tell that this would be a long question and answer session. Luckily she could still feel Naruto far above the clouds, unleashing amounts of Yukai she didn't know he had. It would be a long while before he came down to recover. "It is what I said, I am no longer the Kyuubi." "But that doesn't make sense, you're here, so why aren't you the Kyuubi?" Threading her fingers through her long red hair, "The answer to your question will be found when my explanation is done." Successfully shutting Mei up, Kiyomi continued. "Naruto's village Konoha sought to use my great power through a Jinchuriki. Hundreds of years I had been here, and the arrogance displayed was sickening. Their Shodaime was the first to try his hand at my sealing. His Mokutan had calmed each of the other 9 biju, and thought I would be just as easily tamed and sealed. They were wrong. The Senju used his own son to be the conduit for my power. His seals unraveled before his eyes, and his child suffered his punishment as the boy was disintegrated when my Yukai escaped." Flashback. Standing at the mouth of what looked to be the entrance, so large that the tallest buildings of Konoha would fit twice on top of each other, and still have room, the Shodaime Hashirama Senju stood holding a small baby with a platoon of his personal ANBU. Platoon is 30 men. Handing out each of the other biju to placate the nation's Hashirama saved the Kyuubi for Konoha. To keep the village stronger than everyone, they would need the strongest of biju. "Fall in line, men. Today Konoha takes another step above everyone else, and my son shall be the conduit for our rise. For Konoha." Hashirama raised their morale, gave them courage to face a nightmare. Rushing into the bowls of the earth, they ran in arrowhead formation with Hashirama leading them down the darkened spiral tunnel. They ran for 5 minutes before the tunnel opened up into a cave so large Konoha itself could hide and never be seen. Hashirama could feel they were miles below the surface of the planet. Kyuubi opened her eyes and saw the arrival of those ants. She could feel the minuscule amounts of demon Yukai flowing through them. Watching them spread out around her, they began molding their chakra, and she felt her power being drawn to the small child covered and encircled in seals. Thrashing her tails and head, she flattened many of the ANBU, hoping to contain her. She tried to pull away from the child while using a tail to squish the impudent human who wanted her power, but she was stopped by a large tree root forming a cage over the child. Smacking the roots away, she almost pierced the child, but green chakra enshrouded the child and wrapped around her tail and pulled her towards the seals. More trees sprouted and began binding each tail and limb, holding them firm while she was siphoned into the boy. Finally, the last of Kyuubi was gone, locked away into the Senju to use as he saw fit. Hashirama inspected the seals flowing across his son's body. Each flowing brush stroke of the sealing was perfect. Scooping up his child, Hashirama held him close to his body. "Today, men, we mourn the loss of those here, but we celebrate that their sacrifice was not in vain. Konoha will never fall." Holding the boy up for all the ANBU left, the Senju was almost orgasmic at the prospect of teaching his son how to harness the Kyuubi and usher Konoha into the golden age of domination over the elemental countries. Before the leaf ninja could even leave the cave, baby Senju let out an ear-piercing wail, and its skin became unbearably hot. Hashirama gently set his child on the cool ground to inspect what went wrong. When the blanket was removed, he witnessed each line of the Jinchuriki seals were separating and evaporating off the child's skin at an alarming rate. Before he could even try and stop the event, red Yukai pulsed outwards and everyone were launched away from the epicenter. Hashirama looked from his fallen position as his son flailed its tiny arms around seeking relief from the unbearable pain it was feeling. The skin of the child bubbled and broiled before misting off, the muscles below went through the painful process. Kyuubi's chakra kept the child alive through the entire ordeal, as it was liquefied only when the bones began to show did the unearthly cries stop. The Shodaime had a front row seat to the slow and painful death of his firstborn child. The red yukai solidified into the blood-red fox form of Kyuubi. Ha ha ha, did you get a good look, mortals? This is the fate of all who dare face me. Leave spread what you have seen. Remember the blood of that child covers your hands. The Konoha ninja made haste and ran for the exit with Hashirama spearheading the group. Salty tears flowed from Hashirama's eyes. The sight of his dying child forever burned into his mind. He thought of only revenge. I vow Kyuubi will once day be the weapon of Konoha or die. End flashback. Clearing her throat, that was but the first of many attempts to harness my powers, and each failed just as the first. Shodaime's second child faced the same fate. Nidaime's 3 children each were ripped apart from my yukai. Sandaime used 3 of his 5 children, and those 3 perished as well. Finally the attempt stopped. 30 years I slept undisturbed until the Yandaime himself entered my domain. He opened one of his scrolls and outspewed thousands of his Horatian kunai. Using his Fuinjutsu, he teleported around me, slicing at my quickly reforming body. Successfully earning my anger, he retreated to the entrance of my home. The Namikaze taunted me, a daring game against my power. I chased him out of my chambers. He must have stashed his kunai along the way, for every time I would near attack, the Yandaime would flash a few hundred away. Finally we reached Konoha, and he stood in his sealing circle with Naruto wrapped at his feet. I watched the Hokage flash through many seals before he slammed his hands onto Naruto. Nothing happened, so I launched a biju ball of yukai into the village, leaving large craters and many sectors of Konoha in ruin. I charged another up, but I was stopped, black chains raining from the sky, immobilizing. I watched as the gods of old descended from the sky. Their eyes fell upon me, and ethereal hands reached into my body and pulled my spirit out. The same occurred with Naruto. The black chains slithered around the spiritual form of Naruto. Taking a deep breath from her long story, Kiyomi's eyes were beginning to tear up from what she knew the next part of the tale was. Once those chains had stopped, my soul and body were dragged into the small form of Naruto. From then on I only remember blackness, except when he had entered life or death situations, which were far too many for a child of his age. I caught fragments of his pain and emotions when sealed within him, until his death when he was 15. Mei knew beforehand Naruto had died, but at 15 he should have barely been a genin. What happened? How did he die? Choking back a sob, she could see the execution through Naruto's eyes. He was executed by the Yandaime, his own father. Kiyomi went on to describe the method of execution the Namikaze employed on his own son. The contract struck with the gods by the Yandaime was that when Naruto died of natural causes, I would die with him. Fortunately, Namikaze broke the deal halfway through, so Naruto followed me to where demons go when they have died, to be rebirthed or destroyed. Wiping the tears from her bloodshot crimson eyes, Kiyomi continued, Naruto hasn't been the same since. His only goal is to destroy all of Konoha and execute his father the same way he had done to him. My own demonic rage now flows in Naruto, empowering his darker thoughts and primal instincts. By the time Kiyomi's long tale had ended, it was midday and both women were starving, but looking at the meat that Naruto brought, they suddenly could go without another meal. They moved their discussion from the cave to the rock shelf at the exit of the Yukai-made cave. Kiyomi learned a lot about Mei, like how the bloodline user loved crispy shrimp rolls, and she no longer wanted to become the leader of Kiri. Mei, on her side of the conversation, learned more of the demonists. Like her favorite thing was the euphoric feeling she got from drinking the blood of other demons, and she wished to bring Naruto back to the caring boy he once was. The sun began to set behind the mountains, and the thundering of massive power being unleashed slowed to a stop. Watching the sky intently, they searched for Naruto, and find the blonde demon they did as his body shot through the dissipating clouds and smashed right into the side of the dormant volcano. The deep hole punched into the mountain could easily fit a dozen people. Kiyomi and Mei peered into the gouged earth and saw the burned and blackened body of Naruto. The demon's wounds were healing, but they could tell he had put himself through hell. Lifting Naruto, the woman brought him up to the cave. Gently placing him on the cold rock floor, Kiyomi began to flow her yukai through her partner. The deep purple yukai flitted off their bodies as the soothing effect the combined energies made. Assuring that he felt no long-lasting effects of his injuries, Kiyomi placed his head into her lap and ran her soft fingers through his hair. Mei watched Kiyomi's action that a mother or possibly lover would only do. Feeling the pang of loneliness, Mei continued to watch. In Naruto's unconscious state, his mind running through his memories, screaming at the nightmare of faces and events swirled around him like an uncontrollable whirlpool, and he was being dragged to the bottom of it. When his screaming stopped, his eyes glazed over, content to give up and just die to escape his agony. Then he felt something. It started with just the soft caress that flitted across his unblemished skin. Then the feeling spread and deepened. It flowed through him and soothed all his fears and pain. The whirlpool of memory stopped, and he just floated in the darkness, enjoying the weightlessness this unknown feeling gave him. Finally, after a plethora of restless nights filled with nightmares, he simply cried tears of joy at finally being free from them, even for only one night. Naruto's joy affected his reality, as well. His chakra lightened, became soft once again. The oppressing thought Kiyomi always felt from him quieted till she could feel none, and largest of all, a few innocent tears flowed down from his eyes for the first time in many, many years. Kiyomi couldn't help but smile at this. Naruto returned to normal, if for only a little while. Leaning down, she placed a chaste kiss upon his forehead. This was the Naruto she remembered. The demon couple awakened from their slumber to the embrace of each other. Naruto unfurled his wings and briefly outstretched them before bursting into dark mist and disappearing into his back. Kiyomi gave an exaggerated yawn and wiped her sleepy eyes. Briefly craning her head, she stole a quick kiss from her immortal partner. "Good morning, Kiyomi." "Morning, stud," she responded with a wink. Naruto merely gave a satisfied smirk and pulled Kiyomi upright alongside him. Feeling the cool morning air, he saw their state of undress. Grabbing his crumpled pants, he felt the dried sweat from their late night exercise. With the application of yukai, he cleansed his body. Kiyomi pulled her clothes on and tightened the bow around her waist. The same burst of energy, she too cleansed all unwanted filth and grime. Now back in presentable fashion, they gazed searchingly around the cave for May. No trace left inside, but the duo picked up her scent outside and saw her still in the torn clothes they found her in. Kiyomi walked to the sleeping woman and gently shook her shoulder until she stirred from her sleep. "Wakey, wakey, May, we have much to plan." May opened her dilated eyes and quickly closed them at the morning sunshine lighting the blue sky. Getting to her feet, May stretched widely, and immediately her torn dress protested against the wide movement with a loud ripe. A large tear started in the center of her, and went midway down her torso, leaving little to shield her chest from view. The Yotan woman crossed her arms to protect her modesty after almost giving the demonic god and goddess a free show of the girls. Naruto kept a straight face through it all. The temptation of boobs did little to stir him. It seemed all he needed to quell the burning urges was to simply sate them. Kiyomi, on the other hand, let loose a melodic laugh at the situation her fellow woman found herself in. "Come, May, I will make temporary clothes for you." Kiyomi grabbed the wrist of the stunned woman and dragged her into the cave. Now out of sight, Kiyomi finished the rip and the dress fell to the ground. Unfazed by the scantily clad form before her, Kiyomi circled and sized May's body up. After the second time around, Kiyomi smiled and held her hands out, palms upwards, and a dress identical to May's old one materialized in her hands. "How did you do that?" "It is a simple demonic trick. This will cover you over until you can find new clothes." Kiyomi handed over the durable yukai clothing and left May to dress herself. Moments later, May exited the cave fitted in her new battle dress with matching skirt beneath. "So what do we have to plan?" Naruto turned from his watching of the morning sky. "We are planning for the death of Sanbai." "Why are you after Yagura again?" "Yagura is just an obstacle before Sanbai. Once the biju is released from his body, I or Kiyomi will engage and defeat it." "What will you do once you have defeated the Sanbai?" "We will consume its blood and take the power it holds." May's jaw dropped. Sure, she had talked with Kiyomi, and she said she liked the taste and feeling of drinking the blood of other demons, but she thought it was a joke. But the serious expressions they wore, she could tell that they were anything but joking. Naruto sensed that any form of planning with May seemed frivolous because at the moment she was either scared or shocked. Sighing deeply, he sprouted his large black bone wings, scooping both women into his strong arms. He lifted off the cliff side and drifted on the warm air currents. With the memories of the Kiri and biju he killed, the hidden village was tucked into a sloped mountain shrouded in the abundant hanging mist. They drifted in the atmosphere for half an hour, overseeing the vast lush forests of Mizu no Kuni. The clouds of water were close to the ground now. With the temperatures nearing the ocean, the heavy fog flitted along the ground without lifting. Visibility became null even when beyond human boundaries. Naruto closed his eyes and let the gills paint the world around him. Slowly gliding along the ground, Naruto only flapped his wings to stay airborne and swerving to dodge the stationary trees. Suddenly, like the gods themselves parted the curtain, Kirigakure was presented in all its glory. The buildings were pristine, streets polished, the people were bustling around the city without a care in the world. Naruto was disgusted. This was what he remembered Konoha as. Letting his lips curl into a snarl, Naruto touched down just outside the large guarded walls. Setting his passengers down onto their own feet, Naruto let his more demonic features manifest across his body. Red tattoos glowed ominously. His manicured nails thickened and curled. The leathery wings toughened and became heavy, unusable for flight but for great defense. The top knot in his hair vanished and the long blonde hair draped around his head. And finally, all of Naruto's muscles coiled with strength as he let some of the more muscular physical traits he had absorbed be shown. React! With his battle cry, Naruto surged forward, fists first, and began pounding on the wall. Each punch left a large indentation or crack in the solid stone before a few more punches forced a hole which he enlarged to fit his bulky body. The battle within Shigarigakure no Sato was underway. Naruto's unprompted entrance set off alarms and alerted every ninja within the city to his location. Even with his limited amount of power, he more than enough to take the city by storm. Ah ha ha ha, come and get me, mortals! Naruto simply furled his wings as the kunai sailing through the air harmlessly bounced off the thickened skin. His laughter echoed off buildings when more and more weapons were hurled at him. Finally, he had enough of this farce. He swung his wings and buffeted the flying weapons away. Dashing to the nearest ninja, he grabbed a hold of the man's leg and used him like a mace. Naruto swung the ninja and bashed his limp body into another. The sound-breaking bones and screams were abundant. Absorbing the knowledge from his lifeless weapon, the blonde demon cast the corpse aside and began toppling buildings. His wings dug into the brick or concrete walls, leaving large trenches and cutting the supports. Like dominoes, houses and towers would lean and push more over. Rubble was scattered around. In the first few minutes of Naruto's rampage, he had already a tenth of the entire city reduced to scrap, and while he provided the demolition, Kiyomi was busy swiftly zipping through the throngs of people, feeling out their minds and urging the weak to simply kill themselves or she vanish and appear near them, while their throats erupted into a spray of blood and gore. Come on out, Sanbai, face your death! Naruto roared over the terrified screams around him. I do not know of your motives for defiling my village, but you will not live to regret this decision. Yagura jumped from the roof of a standing tower and landed into a low crouch with the rich green chakra of Sanbai burst from his skin and cloaked him from harm and strengthened his body. He the turtle has come out to play. I will enjoy ripping the biju from your corpse and using the power to decimate the remains of your pitiful village. And it began. Naruto dashed forward, his wings folded to reduce resistance and provide greater aerodynamics, smashing his hulking body into the green-wreathed form of Yagura. The power behind the body slam sent the surprised Mizukage tumbling ass overhead, blowing through standing walls and rubble. Finally coming to a stop, Yagura took large gasps for air. The strength this abomination possessed was far above anything he had experienced in his entire career of being a ninja. Naruto's body parted the hanging dust with a whoosh and Yagura rolled away, narrowly dodging the crater-forming attack. The Mizukage watched as Naruto launched out of the crater and landed just on the edge of the dent upon the earth. You are not human or beast. Your intelligence suggests human, but your body is that of an amalgamation of animals. Ah, you're right, I am not of this world, I am something more. I am a demon. Naruto vanished from his position and appeared with his large fist embedded within the ground where Yagura was standing a moment ago. Yagura appeared next to Naruto with his fist cocked back, letting loose the most powerful punch he could muster with Sanbai's power. Sadly, it merely deflected off the bulky wings that defended against everything else. With the punch moved away, it left a half of Yagura's body open to attack. Boom! The sonic boom was created from Naruto's punch. Once again, Yagura rolled and flipped across the ground at the power behind the punch. The biju cloak protected much, but he could still feel the fractured ribs repairing themselves. Standing once more, Yagura flipped through a fast pace of hand signs Suetun. Ashitama, the large stream of water blasted through the air. Naruto watched as the water raced towards him. Taking hold of one of the outside structure bones from his wing, he wrapped it around himself like a shield with his arm acting as more support against the pressurized water. Finally, it hit like a train. The water pushed him along the ground, his clawed feet digging into the dirt for traction. Finding a solid foothold, Naruto grabbed his second wing and held it next to his current protection, and he pulled them both into the stream and angled them to cut the water. It felt like the water had slowed to the pressure of a garden hose, but in reality his angled wings cut the water like a knife, rushing through the stream. He could feel the terror within Yagura as he raced against his most powerful attack. The water pressure was now unsteady, the fear working against the chakra control. Reaching the terrified Mizukage, he knocked the hand seal aside and the jutsu stopped. Before Yagura could evade, a large clawed hand wrapped around the scrawny neck of the Jinchuriki and lifted him clear off the ground. All out of tricks, Yagura. I have a special friend just waiting to meet you. Mei landed next to the combatants and glared at her enemy. So you brought the escaped woman? She was no match for me months ago. What changes now? Yagura gasped out around the throat-closing grip on his neck. Oh, you think Mei is here for you? No, she cares nothing for Kiri, so she has no quarrel with you, but that man. He gestured over to the arrived AO. No, my special friend is the Sanbai himself. Naruto reared back his hand and plunged his clawed fingers through the stomach of Yagura. It was immediate as the green chakra misted out of the wound and floated along the ground before building itself back into the giant turtle of legends. Rag! Sanbai roared, its freedom complete. Turning its open eye onto the bleeding form of Yagura, it quickly stomped a large foot on the man. Yagura, the Yondaime Mizukage of Kirigakure, was dead, by his own biju finishing the deed. The biju sniffed the air and it began searching the ground for the source of the power it sensed. A young demon has freed me, no time for talk, your power shall be mine. With that the Sanbai drove it head to the location of Naruto, intent on simply eating him and being on its merry way. Dodging the gaping maw, Sanbai, you and the other 8 bring such shame to us demons. You are nothing more than animals searching for your next prey. The Sanbai roared and let loose multiple water torrents from its mouth. Naruto dodged all of the well-aimed shots except the final one. Like slow motion, he watched it closed in on him. Has all of this time been wasted up to this moment? My revenge never complete. My feelings for Kiyomi unexplored. I know I must survive. I will live. I just have to move. And like that, Naruto vanished from his spot in a swirl of water appearing yards away. He stood wide-eyed at what he had just done. The Shunshin, it was a jutsu. Demons couldn't do jutsu. Well, maybe if he could do one, maybe he could do another. Rolling through the hand signs for a Suiton he had absorbed from one of the ninja Suiton, Suryudan no Jutsu. The large watery dragon formed from the water flowing out of destroyed plumbing. It quickly raced around Sanbai, pelting it with dense shots of water. Finally, the large dragon just flew headlong into the side of the beast, toppling the great turtle and forcing it to fall onto its belly. Leaping onto the shell of the demon, Naruto began unleashing stone-shattering blows, and the shell dented and cracked beneath the hits. It happened, his fist penetrated the thick shell. He grabbed hold of the edge of the hole and began ripping off more pieces, making a larger and larger gap in the impressive defense. Naruto could see the pink blood-filled flesh below. Before the shell could repair, he dropped inside of the demon. It was pitch black within the shell, and only the blue yukai dripping from the blonde demon's hands lit the surroundings. The inside of Sanbai was like a feral demon's wet dream. Power-filled blood was everywhere. All he had to do was break open the soft protections and drink to his heart's content. Naruto did just that. The Sanbai roared in pain. It could feel the pest within itself tearing at its flesh and draining its power. The Sanbai had no defense against an inside attack. No one had ever thought to force their way into its protective shell. Many had went for the thick, tough and exposed skin around its head. The feelings of its power being sapped away deluded its mind. Sanbai had no escape from this kind of attack. He would die no matter what he tried. The only change between outcomes is one had far less pain. Resigned to his fate, Sanbai focused on the ingenious demon ripping him apart and simply let his power go. Inside with Naruto, he was getting all he could consume, shoving fistfuls into his mouth. But the blood started flowing faster and filling the place. Soon he was swimming in the red liquid. The blood started spinning round and round, a whirlpool with him at the bottom. The flesh of Sanbai turned into the liquid and joined the large torrents. On the outside it looked to be the Sanbai was imploding. Its shell caved in, the head and legs were pulled into the large red tornado. Naruto touched down on the ground when the blood started forcing its way into his mouth and eyes. Unable to move, he felt the power of Sanbai adding to his own. Naruto was now a tailed beast. He would gain an animal form custom to him. Once all of the blood had forced its way inside of the young demon, the changes began. His arms and wings met, fusing, becoming one. First sprouted black as night. Naruto's ears pointed and migrated to the top of his head. His face morphed and became fox-like. A smaller set of wings grew from below his current ones, just as powerful. His new pipistrellus, one body, lacked the webbing between the legs, providing him with greater mobility on ground, but flying would be difficult. His entire eye began to glow red. No longer did he have an iris or pupil, just a deep glowing red. Lastly, his body began to grow, first 10 feet, then 30, 50. Finally he peaked out at 75 feet. Invigorated with power, Naruto let loose his first cry as a biju screech. The pitch of the scream forced all within a mile to cover their ears. Minutes earlier, Mei had engaged her former trusted commander. You will be taken prisoner once again, Mei Teremi, to face treason and war crimes against Kirigakyu no Sato. The Yotan woman's laughter began with a slight hitch in her breath, and it grew into a loud mocking laugh. After she had controlled herself, no Ao, you won't surprise me like last time. Today you will die with Kiri. Mei shot forward with a haymaker. Skillfully dodging, Ao spun for a backhand, but the woman blocked with a raised forearm. Kicks and punches were ineffective. Separating, Mei begun her hand signs Yotan, Yugon Tama. Large red globs of molten rock burst from her mouth and sped towards the man. Suiton, Mizurapa. Ao retaliated. The water rushed over the lava. The water did little to slow the speed, and the now solid chunks impacted his body, bruising him and cracking his sternum. Coughing, his breathing was difficult to control, and already he could feel the flesh beginning to swell. He watched Mei dash towards him, turning his body to evade the punch. He felt his sternum move and grind together. Ao body seized in pain and received a right hook to the face. Stumbling back, he was struck again. Left, right, left. Finally an uppercut landing hard on his back. His face was bruised and blackening. Ao watched the woman approach him, then he heard it, the deafening screech, and Mei covered her ears. This was his chance. Drawing a kunai from his pouch, he flipped to his feet, ignoring the pain, reaching out with his arm to slay the enemy. Ao never expected her hands to shoot out and hit the medial epicondyle. 2. His arm caved. She wrapped her hand around his and forced the kunai towards his head. The kunai slid easily into the soft tissue of his chin and through the oral cavity, and piercing the lower parts of his brain. Ao, the ex-rebel commander, knew no more after Mei twisted the kunai and ripped it out. Blood poured from the hole and the body fell to the ground in a growing pool of blood. Kiyomi watched the gigantic bat screech. He had done it. Naruto defeated Sanbai and took his power as his own. Running swiftly across the twisted metal and rubble, she jumped onto the midnight fur of Naruto. Climbing up the behemoth, she reached his head and wrapped her hands around his fur and sat comfortably among the softness. Naruto felt his lover adjust within his fur and felt a small smile grow on his vulpine-like face. Scanning the ground, he saw the rich blue kimono of Mei and used one of his winged arms to scoop her up and place her next to Kiyomi. Tensing his large wings, he blasted into the air. The gusts of wind he produced kicked up mountains of dust. Once high above the ground, he circled the half-destroyed shinobi village. Opening his mouth, a deep blue sphere grew between his lips before he fired it straight into the heart of the village. Nothing happened for a moment after the energy impacted the earth, but soon enough the entire area was consumed in the explosion that ensued. People were incinerated, buildings evaporated. Only a large, desolate circle was left where the bustling village once stood. Kirigakyu no Sato was no more. HHH Namikaze woke with a yell. Her nightmare had come back. Kyubi had slaughtered everyone and stood glaring at her. Then the demon spoke. The time has come, Namikaze. I am reborn and Konoha shall be trampled beneath my crusade. Kyubi wrapped his bloodied hands around her throat and lifted her clean off. He ground. Ninja will fall, people will die, the world will be forever changed. I have arrived. The nightmare terrified her into hyperventilation. The hatred within Kyubi glowered just beneath the blood-colored eyes. This was the first time Kyubi had ever spoken. It was time to tell her parents of the disturbing themes her sleep had conjured. Rain Namikaze wandered from her comfortable room, finding her older brother and parents sitting around the dining room table. She sat herself as far from them. With what she planned to tell them, they would react. Mom, Dad, you know how I haven't been sleeping right these past years, the young girl said. The parental duo gave her a questioning glance. Yes, we had Anoichi himself check you out. He found nothing out of the ordinary, Minato answered. I know what has been disturbing me this whole time, just never wanted to say anything. The red-haired girl felt ashamed and turned her yes towards her lap. I have been having nightmares of the execution day of Narqb. She caught herself before speaking the forbidden name. Both Minato and Kushina shared a relieved look. Honey, the Kyubi is gone, forever banished from this world, Kushina said in a loving, warm voice. Slamming her hands on the table, shaking the tableware. But he isn't. He keeps reappearing in my dreams, always getting closer to us. Last night he spoke to me. The outburst immediately ended the good mood. Ray, this joke has gone on long enough. Not another word, or you will be sent to your room, Minato said sternly. Please, you have to believe me, Dad. He said that he was reborn and coming to destroy Konoha. She pleaded with her father. Enough, young lady, to your room. After breakfast your mother will deal with you. Minato stood from his seat and grabbed his cloak off the back of the chair and threw it on before walking out the door. Ray's eyes were brimming with tears. Pushing away from the table, she ran back to her room and locked the door before throwing herself onto the feather-soft bed and cried. The young red-haired girl cried herself to sleep within the warm embrace of her bed. Deep ocean blue chakra, not her own, floated around her body before sinking into the tiny green pendant she had made from the Shodame's necklace. With the death of her unknown brother, she took it as a token of remembrance and remade it. The yukai continued to flow into the necklace, and her body, unable to deal with the energy, became restless, and the yukai affected her dreams. Nightmare. Ray was standing amongst toppled buildings and corpses. This was not her usual dream. This looked to be a war zone. She saw a man with green chakra flowing around him. Without wanting to, she moved at speeds she had never witnessed outside of her father's time-space jutsu and punched the man with more strength than anyone but Tsunade herself could generate. Again she engaged the man and gave him a sound thrashing, before lifting him off the ground and shoving her hand through his stomach. The green chakra gushed from the wound she had inflicted and formed into a giant turtle. She dropped the body and zoomed to another location to avoid the foot that stomped her previous position. Ray Nightmare shifted now. She towered over everything and she had wings, and they lifted her off the ground. High above the ground she saw a symbol inscribed upon one of the walls she glanced at. The 4 wavy lines indicated that this decimated land was Kiri. Suddenly she felt power grow in her mouth before she unleashed the dark blue sphere into the heart of the city. The blue dome that expanded from the impact site covered the whole area, and when the light cleared, only smooth earth remained where the large civilization once stood. End nightmare. Many miles away, the exhausted Naruto was asleep as his mind worked with the inflow of knowledge from Sanbai and regulating the new power. Even after splitting the energy 50-50 with Kiyomi, it was almost triple what he had before. Naruto's own deep ocean blue yukai flitted off his body into the air, where it sailed with the wind to where it was called. Kiyomi wandered in to see the powerful yukai being sapped from her love. Quickly her own yukai jumped at her command and mixed with Naruto's own, stopping any more from escaping. Back in Konoha, with the yukai flow stopped, Ray's nightmare ended, and she awoke from her slumber in a sweat. Why did I dream of Kiri in ruins? Wiping her moist forehead, she straightened the wrinkled clothes from her restless sleep. Ray looked to the clock and it said only 10 minutes had passed. Her nightmare was vivid to be dreamed up, but so improbable to be true. Kushina entered her daughter's room and saw the tear-stained pillow and sighed to herself, Ray, what's going on? What was that outburst at the table? Kushina wrapped her arms around her child and hugged the young girl into her chest. Ray wiped her nose and she looked tearfully into her mother's eyes. But Mom, I think the Kyuubi is back. He keeps appearing in my dreams every night, threatening to decimate Konoha. I'm scared. Shirei, it's alright, your father and I spent many years finding the way to form a soul contract with the gods. We wouldn't have went through with the execution unless we were sure. But what if you were wrong? What if Kyuubi is only recuperating? Honey, have faith in us to know what we were doing. Kushina smiled and kissed her daughter's head. Your father said he had something important to tell you today. You better go see him. With that, the red-haired mother left the room. Walking down the crowded roads leading up to the Hokage Tower, Ray continued to ponder on her most recent nightmare. It was so real. Maybe I am going crazy. The young redhead scoffed at herself. Of course I'm crazy. My parents contacted the gods themselves to destroy Kyuubi. What do I have to worry? Feeling a little better, Ray's mood brightened and she would apologize to her father for not believing him when she saw him. Up the stairs and into the large room that all the village leaders occupied. Before him, Minato sat with a young, well-known raven-haired man. This was the scene Ray stumbled on. So Sasuke, what does the last Uchiha have to offer for the hand of my daughter? Well, Hokage, I have an activated Sharingan, which means nearly all my children will also activate it also. Beyond my Jujutsu, I have much wealth backing me that I would be inclined to invest into the many projects this village has undertaken, such as the humane genetic experiments started by Orochimaru, but it is really up to you where my investments would land, sir. Minato saw many advantages to wedding his youngest to this young man, all very excellent reasons, but I have one more question. Being who you are, there are hundreds if not thousands willing to throw themselves at your feet to be chosen as your wife. Why you want Ray? The Uchiha have been disgraced and there are many who think me untrustworthy. But with the daughter of the Hokage standing by my side, I may raise my honor and reputation, once again become a highly respected clan of Konoha born of Uchiha and Namake's blood. It was at this point the Yondaime saw his youngest standing slack-jawed at the door. Ah, Ray, you're earlier than I expected, but you know Sasuke Uchiha, he has come to ask me for your hand in marriage. The Uchiha stood. It is a pleasure to meet you, Ray Namakase, he said while bowing. Mine as well, Sasuke Uchiha, she said, returning the gesture. I will take my leave, Lord Hokage, and Sasuke left, and gently closed the door. Ray stared at her father, and he didn't seem to have a problem with Sasuke's proposal. Then Minato spoke. Ray, the final decision is up to you, but with the monetary value held solely by Sasuke would greatly improve many sections of Konoha and help us expand further, and provide greater training regimes for future shinobi and kunoichi. Now he had placed such a great decision upon her, sacrifice her life for the betterment of Konoha or say no. Sasuke didn't seem to be such a bad guy. Maybe she could grow to love him, and she would be helping Konoha. Dad, I think I accept, for the greater of Konoha, right? Minato was happy his daughter had accepted and Konoha would grow. Excellent, Ray, I will write up the date for the wedding and have it sent to Sasuke. Standing up and rounding his desk, he wrapped his daughter in a tight embrace. My little girl is so grown up. Wrestling from the hug, Ray looked at her father. Dad, about this morning, I'm sorry. It's just these nightmares seem so real, I was scared. It's alright, sweetie, everything is okay. Time skipped days later in Konoha. It was a cool evening in the village, and tonight was the first meeting between the engaged Sasuke and Ray since the proposal. Sasuke booked the most expensive restaurant with the best table they had. Being a wealthy Uchiha had many perks. Dinner was uneventful. They made simple conversation and chatted about various topics hot amongst the village, such as the terrifying news of Kirigakure being eliminated from the face of the earth being one of them. Ray's dream came true, so she was a little off during the date. Sasuke paid the bill, and walking down the empty streets of Konoha, he turned to his date. Ray, would you like to come back to my place for some tea? Now Ray Namakase was only 15, newly engaged to an older 18-year-old man. She had very little experience in relationships, being isolated with her family for so long. So tea meant they were having tea. Sure, Sasuke, I would love some tea. Oh, how naive she was. Entering the luxury clan head mansion left behind by the Uchiha, the couple sat down on pillows around a small table. Smoothing out the wrinkles in her ankle-length white kimono with black petals dancing around the fabric, Ray sat in the silence as one of the servants set the mint tea down and poured 2 cups. Sasuke waved the servant off and began to sip his tea. You are very beautiful, Ray. Sputtering a little into her tea, she gained a red tinge to her cheeks. Thank you, Sasuke, you are very handsome yourself. Ray didn't even notice that Sasuke had set his tea down and moved to her side. Seeing her host so close next to her, she sat her tea down and leaned away from the man. Sasuke, what are you doing? She leaned further away. Sasuke gently cupped her face. Kissing you, and he attached his mouth to hers and began to try and probe her mouth with his tongue. Feeling the slimy appendage touch her lips, she pushed him away. Stop it, Sasuke, and Rei wiped her mouth. Now, never in Sasuke's life had he even been denied something so this was an anger-inducing first. No, you stop it. We are to be wed, so you will listen to me and obey, he said forcefully. This time he grabbed a hold of her kimono and pulled her towards him. Leave me alone. She punched him and stood up to go. I am leaving. No, you are not, and with speed gained through training and age, Sasuke was up and had backhanded her across the room. You are my fiancé, so you will obey me or be punished, and again he had moved to her, and already had his hands undoing the bow holding her kimono up. The bruise was forming on her delicate cheek as she tried to wrestle Sasuke away from her, but his strength was above hers and he only worked faster to divest her of clothing. With the kimono open he saw her undergarments matched her dress, white with black trim. Rei, I'm going to enjoy having you as my wife, and Sasuke began to knead her through the brow. Rei was in shock. This man was molesting her, and she could do nothing to stop it, and she felt the cool air reach her as Sasuke pushed her bra up. She felt his slimy tongue touch her breast, and she began to struggle more, but her held still. Then a hand touched her other breast, and then she felt the final hand ghosting down her stomach. Tears breached her eyes and flowed down her cheeks, cooling the burning bruise that was present. Then she felt his fingers touch her through the dignity she had left. Fear spiked within her and strength filled her body. Shoving Sasuke off her, he flew across the room and into a wall, leaving spiderweb cracks where he hit. All thought had stopped in her mind. Only to kill this man who dared defile her ran was present. Her eyes turned from the light purple coloring to blazing red. Her shoulder-length hair grew till it reached her waist. Her muscles rippled with renewed strength. Rei's bra had moved back to cover her once she had stood, but modesty meant nothing to the young woman. Charging to the disorientated Sasuke, she grabbed his shirt and hefted him into the air. Her cocked back hand released and gave a stone-shattering blow to his sternum. The Uchiha broke through the wall he had impacted and continued out and over the wall and landed into one of the major streets nearby. Sasuke coughed up some blood and felt his ribs had cracked. Glancing around, he saw a crowd had gathered around him and only dispersed once a thundering crash was heard. Rei had hit the ground with a boom. As the dirt gave way to her landing, she stood with deep ocean blue chakra glowing around her like a fire. Each step she made scorched the ground. Reaching the Uchiha, she smashed a fist into the ground he once was as he had used Shunshin. Turning, she saw him nearby nursing his chest. This was the scene Minato came upon, catching his daughter in her bra and panties, smashing anything that was in her way. To Sasuke, Rei, Namike, cease and desist, he bellowed. The only response he got was her head tilting to look him dead in the eyes, and he saw the once beautiful eyes she had were now blood red. Rei let out a loud growl and charged the injured Uchiha once more, but she was cut off by a large wooden totem pole sprouting from the ground and wrapped her flailing limbs as she tried to shake it off. Rei's efforts were in vain as the wood drained the yukai from her body. The sudden power rush left her exhausted as her eyes closed. The caste master Anbiyu who had created the totem pole spoke. Sir, that was demonic chakra she was giving off. Same time as the Rei incident. Naruto sat atop the mountain he claimed as his home, Kiyomi and Mei both next to him with his large wings shielding them from the cool wind and warming them. As the trio sat enjoying the night's air, Naruto jerked his head in the southwest direction. He could feel his own energy yukai but so far away. Kiyomi too felt his yukai surfacing many miles away, and she remembered seeing it once drifting softly off his body into the wind a couple of days ago. Naruto, did you feel that? Kiyomi whispered. Yes, it felt like my own yukai, but it is far away. I cannot pinpoint its location, he responded. Mei had an inkling to what the duo were talking about. How would someone have your yukai? Kiyomi shared what she saw a few days prior. A couple of days ago, Naruto, I saw your body giving off yukai while you slept. I immediately stopped it from continuing, but it seems someone is drawing energy from you. The blonde considered the possibility of someone being able to draw his yukai from so far away. They would need a conduit for his caustic power, something to purify it, and the only thing that had been able to purify it so far was the combination of his own yukai with Kiyomi's HM. I will have to be wary of this and follow my energy to the person using it. The sun had long fallen and the moon had taken over the skies. Kiyomi softly snoozed against his side with his wing folded over her. Surprisingly enough, Mei also had snuggled up to the demon and clutched to his wing tightly. Sighing in mild amusement, he gently picked both up, one in each arm, and brought them into the safety of the cave. Placing Mei onto her stone bed, he released his hold on her and went to move, only to be stopped by the strong hold she had with his wing. Again picking up the woman, he stomped his foot and let his yukai reshape the rock. The rock reformed into a large raised slab large enough to fit the man and two women. Laying down with both stunning girls on each side, he let his yukai prod and pull against Kiyomi's own yukai till a large misting blanket of royal purple covered the trio. With the soothing chakra flowing over them, Naruto's eyes were rapidly closing, and before he knew it, a peaceful sleep had claimed him. Back in Konoha. After Rei's rampaging attack on Sasuke, she was released from the wooden confinements and returned to the Namikaze mansion where Kushina put her to bed. Minato Namikaze was in his large office surrounded by his best advisory council as they continued to throw out possibilities on how Rei had released the demonic chakra, and so far nothing made sense. The first theory was that she had been possessed by a demon, but it was shot down since the Shodame's necklace she wore would have repelled and restrained any demons releasing the yukai. The second theory was she had developed demon yukai instead of regular chakra. That too was shot down after she was tested, and only human chakra was found. The final theory was she was a hidden Jinchuriki. Minato himself laughed at the idea of his own daughter containing a beast. To sate the curiosity, he himself checked his daughter for any unknown seals and none were found. Unknown to everyone, the Shodame's jewel was never intended to control any biju over four tails. It was his final gift to Konoha to fight against the Jinchuriki. At the day of Naruto's execution, his body was releasing constant streams of Kyuubi's yukai, and some of his own. While the necklace continued to restrain and purify the demonic chakra, it failed in the last seconds of Naruto's life. The jewel lost the self-replenishing chakra of the Shodame, and became filled with the mix of Kyuubi's and Naruto's own. Now, instead of protecting against demons, it amplified yukai while purifying it with the human/demonic combination. With the chakra itself to draw upon was Naruto's, it is connected to him, to the wearer. Similar to Jinchuriki, whenever in heightened states of stress, be it anger, fear or even sadness, the wearer can use the yukai stored within the crystal. While Rei slept peacefully in her bed, the jewel called to its parent yukai to replenish the amount its wearer had used. Slowly but surely the deep blue yukai seeped through the window and walls like a ghost and drained into the small green jewel. As the pendant absorbed more of the chakra, it changed from the sea green color to a cyan hue, and the more stored, the deeper blue it became. Back with Naruto, he awoke to the subtle feeling of his yukai separating from the purple-purple mix and drifting away. He watched as his yukai heeded the call of another. With his chakra a part of him, he let himself flow with it. The out-of-body experience was peculiar. He had none of his sense to tell him what was happening. He was only being drawn towards an unknown destination. No sense of time or space as he drifted with his chakra until the pulling stopped and he could feel once again, although he only felt the pulsing chakra of the person he assumed was calling his own power. Letting himself flow into the constant moving stream, he was surprised to feel no resistance from the person, as human chakra didn't like to be mixed with anything but human chakra. Then it was like sorting through the memories of a person he absorbed, only now he had no control over it. He witnessed the dreams of this person, and he recognized the scenario. It was his execution, only it was different than he remembered. Never had he escaped his captors, but it seemed this person dreamed he did. Naruto was enthralled to watch the imagination of this person using him to kill everyone, until the dream version of himself stopped and stood looking at him. Assuming that he was witnessing the dream-formed first person, Naruto extended his power to manipulate this dream world. Taking control of his dream self, Naruto saw who was calling his yukai was none other than his own sister. Naruto's dream self morphed into his true form. Of all the people who I thought who would be stealing my power from me, you had never crossed my mind. Rei just stared, mouth open wide. The Kyuubi had changed shape. It was tall, and was beyond peak physical conditioning, and was something close to being a god. What's wrong, dear sister? You didn't think I would find out who has been stealing the little bit of yukai you have taken? Kyuubi? Naruto just had to hold himself from laughing at her. Ha ha ha, I am no Kyuubi yet, so little sister, why are you taking my power? I don't know what you are talking about, Kyuubi, she responded. The blonde demon held his chin and thought, I don't believe you, cause I felt it being used, and I felt you once again calling small amounts to you. So don't try and fool yourself or me. Before Rei could shout anymore, Naruto covered her mouth and heard something calling to him in a whisper, Master. Glancing around the dream world, his eyes settled on the small blue pendant. So this is the conduit you have been using. Wrapping his large hand around it, he could feel the crystal itself was pulling his yukai. Intrigued, he let more and more of his chakra flow into the jewel. He could feel it resonate with joy and contentment as he filled it. Finally, no more of his energy could fit within the small necklace. It felt alive within his hand. Opening his hand, the crystal rested in his palm. Watching, he could see his yukai trying to move, with small yukai tendrils wrapping around his fingers and hand, pulling itself back to rest between his sisters, forming B cup. Lowering his hand from her mouth so she could speak, the first thing she did was try to pull the necklace off, only for the tendrils to appear and sink into her skin to anchor it securely to her body. Screaming in fright as this thing held tightly to her skin, she pulled with all she could muster, and not an inch was gained. While his sister fought with the amusing item that seemed to like her, Naruto found it beneficial to update himself on how his home was doing. Leaving the girl to fight the necklace, he broke through the thinly woven dream and plunged right into the memories. He watched everything from his death to her rampage against the Uchiha, stifling a laugh at his defeat. What seemed to be hours, Naruto returned to find his exhausted sister laying in her dream, still weakly pulling at the pendant. Rei Namikaze, soon to be Uchiha. How does it feel that you're slated to be the mother of more traitors and, from what I have seen, rapists? Rei turned her face away from him. What does it matter to you, Kyuubi? It is for the greater good of the village. Ah yes, the greater good of the village. So many atrocities and deaths have been for the good of the village, he said snidely at the ending. My own execution was for the village. Tell me what your father told you that called for my death? Now that was an already answered question. Naruto had committed all her memories to his own. He said you rampaged and attacked Konoha ninja for many years. All the previous Hokage tried to stop you by sealing them within their children, and every time you would escape and kill your host. First, I am not Kyuubi yet, so stop calling me so. Second, everything you have been told by our dear father was a lie. All the records of Kyuubi in Konoha coincides with everything I have been told. Ah, so you have thought that what he said were false if you checked all the records. Rei was backed into a corner. She had to admit that, so I didn't believe everything he said until I had checked it for myself. What's it you? Naruto could tell he was chipping away at her resolve. What it means is you are still redeemable, oh sister of mine. I will leave you with a question. Why did Kyuubi never attack Konoha directly if it sought blood until the day of my sealing? Until then, little sister, you may continue drawing yukai from me, if only to survive the village. With those parting words, Naruto vanished from her dream. Rei awoke to the morning sun. Her dream was not real. She looked down at the deep blue pendant and lifted the chain from her neck. She almost had it removed from her until the tendrils she had come to hate emerged and pulled itself back into place. She could practically hear the gem laughing at her as the yukai within shook with mirth. Quickly getting dressed, she would tell her father of the necklace and the events of her dream. Hopefully she wouldn't be written off as crazy. Back with Naruto. Feeling refreshed and better than ever, Naruto let his chakra dissipate from the purple cocoon and Kiyomi's own yukai receded. Naruto gently unfolded his wings, grateful the female duo had released them during the night. They disappeared into a haze of darkness and vanished into his back. Nudging his sleeping partners, Kiyomi, may wake up, I have quite a bit to tell you. Sluggishly the women opened their eyes and both felt amazing after that night's sleep. May rubbed her emerald eyes clear of residue from sleep. What's up, Naruto? I have found the parasite taking my yukai, he said, trying to contain the laughter. Kiyomi was at full attention. She wanted to know who could do such a thing. Well, out with it. Who is it? Ah, it's not a who, but a what. It seems the necklace I had worn as a teen now calls to me, bestowing its wearer with my own purified yukai. Who is wearing the necklace then? Letting a chuckle past his lips, why, it is my own baby sister, Rei Namake's soon-to-be Uchiha. I had such an interesting conversation with her last night when I connected with the gem. So the trio sat down while Naruto explained his nighttime adventure from the journey as being his own yukai to the final words he left. Throughout his story, Kiyomi only ever asked one question, and it was, what are you planning for Rei? Naruto stopped his story to think about his answer. Why did he talk with her when he could have just took all his yukai back and then deal with his family when he went to destroy Konoha? Maybe it was curiosity about her, and what he could have had as a child, or possibly he felt some sort of familial connection to his unknown sister. Whatever it was, Naruto felt nothing to learn of his twin like he sought to learn about Rei. He too was sort of baffled by his own proclamation that she could be saved. His answer to the question was, I don't know, I always wanted a little sister, but she will ultimately decide. Ending his story, he stood and told them what else he had learned from what he saw through Rei's past. Apparently a Wagakure has been testing the borders of Kyumo. We could try to find another of the Jinchuriki. I know destroying Konoha with our current power would be simple, but I want to rake them over the embers of their village before I finish my goals in this world. Naruto turned to the Yotan user. Mei, what are you going to do now that Kirigakure is destroyed? Now the thought had crossed her mind, what would she do now that she had no home and the rebels would probably hope to rebuild or take off for greener pastures? I could ask to be dropped off at a nearby town, be a civilian. Maybe I could teach the local children to survive and live a peaceful life. Or I could stay with Naruto and Kiyomi facing Jinchuriki, killing ninja and biju. It would be exciting. Now very few ninja ever retired, not because they died so young, but once you have experienced the many wonders of the world and faced high adrenaline situations, it was addicting. You can't stop wanting the rush of surviving dangerous missions. Being a ninja was a drug that you were hooked on until death. I want to go along with you, Naruto. Getting to know Kiyomi has been the greatest time I have had in a long time, and maybe in the future I would like to get to know you as well. May covered any deeper emotions other than happiness from showing on her face, but her thoughts were quite another story. Kiyomi could feel her attraction towards Naruto. Like a moth to flame, she would get closer and closer, knowing death was the outcome, to be one with fire if only for a moment before perishing. That the was path this demon pair walked. No human could possibly survive what they intended to do while in this world, but May had shown no fear of following after knowledge of what they planned. What kind of ninja feared death? It was only through surviving it would they grow stronger. It had been a tense week after Rei had told her parents about the yukai channeling necklace and Naruto being alive. Immediately after her explanation of the events in her dreams and showing them the tenacious necklace latching onto her body, did they finally accept that maybe everything Rei had said was true. Minato examined the jewel before trying to lift it from her body, and exactly as it had happened many times before, thin blue threads latched onto her body and held firmly against all methods of removal. Decisions on the new information were decided by the council. Flashback. Once again gathering his advisory council, they discussed how to proceed with the information that Naruto had somehow lived through his execution and became what they had once tried to destroy. This group of advisors were small, only 6 people were included in the circle. The members were Shibi Aburame, Suminazuka, Shikaku Nara, Hayashi Hyuga, Inoichi Yamanaka, Jiraiya of the Sannin. Naturally, the Toad Sage was rarely in attendance, but he was still included due his insight into the other nations. How are we even sure this person is your former son? He was gutted and buried. We should dig up the grave to make sure his remains are still there. Without proof, this man could simply be an impostor, a skeptical Inoichi started. It is possible he has transcended a human body. Biju are self-replenishing and regenerating. It is possible that the deal I had with the gods backfired, and instead of taking Kyubi with him to death, he became the new Biju and formed a new shell to house his spirit. Minato was never particular on the fine print. We should try and converse with Naruto. Maybe he has forgiven us. If he does have Yukai as your daughter has said, then he would no doubt be an advantageous ally. This was the voice of undeniable logic, Shibi Aburame, naive but logical. Do you really think that would be even remotely possible? We killed him, no one would forgive that. We should just hunt him down, and make sure he doesn't join up with some other village. Suminazuka gave her own idea. Finally, Minato had taken both and came to a solid plan. We can do both. I will send a squad to speak with Naruto, and hopefully convince him to return to Konoha under his own power, or the squad will fight to kill him, with both sides satisfied with the plan to acquire a new powerful ally or put down a potential enemy. Next on the agenda is the necklace my daughter wears. It seems Naruto somehow changed the Shodame's necklace to channel his Yukai instead of the demon restraining chakra that once resided within. From what Rei has told me, it works similar to being a Jinchuriki without a Biju. She can use all the Yukai, with the only limit being how much is stored in the jewel at face value. This necklace was something that could give any ninja the step up in power to defeat Kage's limited strength, but for the time you do have, makes killing or incapacitating anyone simple. So only Naruto's Yukai works within this necklace? Shibi asked. Yes, I have tried everything to influence the current stored energy with various seals to draw out the chakra. It remains steadfast to only react to Rei. Minato responded. Then this is another undeniable reason for the intact return of Naruto. If we could find more of those gems, he could power them, and trusted high-ranking ninja could become limitless in potential. Shibi had a very good reason for the return of the long-thought-dead Namikaze. That would be far too costly to the village. The jewel alone costs at least triple what our yearly expenses for the entire village is. The Fire Daimyo would never supply us with such funding. Hayashi Hyuga added his 2 cents into the conversation. The Inuzuka spoke up. Then we should remove it from Rei and possibly let another person use it to its full capabilities. Tsh, did you not listen to Minato? He said it only reacts to Rei. He would have obviously tested your idea before omitting it. The tired, drawling voice of Shikaku. Not only that, it cannot be removed from her, every attempt is thwarted by the necklace itself. Any movement to remove the pendant and threads of pure Yukai sew themselves seamlessly into her skin and only vanish when it is released. It is possibly sentient from the information Rei has supplied to me. She said she can feel basic emotions from the necklace, such as amusement at the plans to remove it. The Yondaime added. We will meet again when the squad returns, either with or without Naruto. The meeting adjourned. Everyone left their seats in the office and left Minato to sit at his desk. Rei will have to be watched with her contact with Naruto. If her display against the Uchiha was any indication, perhaps simply killing him would be worth the loss. I will decide if things go south, the Yondaime thought to himself. Calling for his assistant Misako, please inform Kakashi Hatake, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Rei Namikaze they have an important mission that needs their expertise. Flashback end. Now we find Rei once again scanning all the record books of Konoha history. She had spent nearly every free moment since her contact with Naruto reading every significant date and event. She had even moved on to reading the K.I.A, killed in action, and M.I.A, missing in action, logs for the past 100 years. So far she had found nothing in her search, and she was beginning to doubt the words left behind by her brother. HM Shodaime had taken a platoon of ANBU out of the village on the 23rd day of summer to battle the incoming Kyubi. They returned 4 days later, 22 ninja KIA, 4 injured, 4 unharmed. A year later he leaves with another platoon, and returns with only 4 of varying degree of injuries. But why would he only take 30 men with him when he should drive it off with larger numbers? Was the Kyubi a seasonal destroyer who comes once a year to kill and ravage then leaves again? But what reason does it have to do that? Now father said they had tried to seal Kyubi before, and you seal each biju in a child to have the kid grow with the Yukai, and utilize it, and with the breadcrumbs left behind by her brother, all she knew so far coincided to solve this problem. Children take 9 months from conception to birth. The Kyuubi only attacked when the Hokages had children to seal it into. Her brother's words rang in her head, then all the records are lies. Like a frying pan to the face, it hit her. The Kyuubi was never the attacker, it was the victim in this. All the previous Hokages leaving to repel the biju only left when their children were just born, and for 30 years after the attack stopped, but that was only when the Sandaime stopped having children and never took his last 2 sons. Kyuubi only ever was seen near Konoha the day it was sealed within her brother. Rei would need to do more investigating, but so far it wasn't looking good for her father. 2 days later with Naruto. The trio had waited around the cave for the past week, letting Mei recuperate after her 2 months in seclusion. After many large meals and the nights wreathed in the healing purple blanket of chakra created by the demon duo, the Yotan user was back to perfect fighting form again. Kiyomi-chan, Mei, let's move out. Standing on the edge of the sheer cliff, Naruto spread his mighty wings, feeling the wind push against his appendages. Both women came to stand next to him. You're not going to carry us the whole way, are you, Naruto? Mei asked, not because she didn't want to be held by the Adonis of a man, but she was sure a bruise would form from the trip. No, not this time. I want to freely fly in my biju form. We will reach the borders of Iwa and Kumo by nightfall. At my flight speed we will make camp on a mountain again. If you would stand back, ladies. When both women had taken a couple long strides away did the transformation begin. His eyes changed to red, the black soft fur covered his skin while the wings melded with his strong arms, providing greater lift with each mighty flap. Where a man once stood, now an elephant-sized flying fox bat had taken his place. Well, climb on, I am eager to feel the wind. Neither woman needed more prompting, they eagerly jumped onto the soft fur. Kiyomi quickly sprawled out, trying to wrap herself in the hair of her lover, letting her red yukai caress the deep blue of Naruto's. Mei, on the other hand, tried to keep the feeling of the fur gently rubbing against her legs out of her mind. She saw her demoness friend making fur angels. Laughing softly to herself, Mei continued to watch Kiyomi roll back and forth, just loving the fur. Kiyomi, you should settle down, I think Naruto wants to take off. Briefly stopping mid-roll, Kiyomi gave Mei the what the fuck look before grabbing the Yotan user and pushing her face first into the soft fur. Now you feel why I am rolling around, plus Naruto doesn't mind. If we are affecting his flight, he can just grow larger to compensate. Right, Narukoi, Kiyomi said. Absolutely, a Yomi-chan. Obviously Naruto never thought of a pet name for his mate. Pushing off the cliff, he spread his wings and flew into the perpetually cloudy skies of water country. High above the ground he drifted towards the ocean, letting the rising warm air push him to his destination. Suddenly his balanced flight gained some turbulence. Kiyomi-chan, can you stop moving so much? Haha, sorry Naruto-kun, that isn't me. Glancing over his back, Naruto could see Mei doing exactly what she said would disrupt the flight, rolling around and making fur angels. A blush was present on the parts of her face not hidden by fur at being caught. Sorry Naruto-kun. Mei sat up, smoothing out wrinkles in her clothes from her romp in the fur. It's alright, now hold on, I'm going to gain some speed. He went from being the size of an elephant to that of a large whale. Letting his yukai flare, they increased from a lazy gliding speed to being a blur in the sky. Kiyomi squealed with excitement and let her own yukai flow with his, further increasing the pace. Mei's eyes got very big before she held onto the fur for dear life and hid her face. From the ground, Naruto looked like a purple meteor streaking across the sky. With the contact squad. Kakashi-sensei, where are we even supposed to begin looking for Naruto? Sakura Haruno asked. Said masked man lazily replied as they soared through the trees. Rei said she saw Kiri being destroyed and the sandbite being extracted. We don't know what he has accomplished by killing everyone in the village and releasing the biju. It is possible he wants to destroy every biju as to prevent more Jinchuriki being made like he once was, and it would fit with his personality. Gaining a tick mark, Sakura remarked, you still didn't tell us where we are going, sensei. Mama, that is true, Sakura. Well, we are going to the nearest place with the most Jinchuriki. And where is that, sensei? The pink-haired girl said, getting more frustrated with Kakashi dodging her question. Before Kakashi could answer, Sasuke cut in the nearest are Iwa and Kumo with 2 each. Now shut up, Sakura, your voice is grinding on my eardrums. Being cowed by her crush, the pinkette was quiet. She could see Sasuke glancing at the final member of their squad, Rei Namikaze herself and fiancé to Sasuke. Sakura was beyond jealous of the younger girl, and ever since they had set off from Konoha she would never let them get a chance alone, for which Rei was silently grateful for. Her father refused to believe Sasuke would force himself on her even though he had found her only wearing bra and panties. Minato blamed her rampage on the necklace influencing her. Sasuke even lied and said they were having tea when she suddenly attacked and he tore her clothes from her while he was trying to restrain her. All in all, Rei felt very vulnerable and afraid around Sasuke and men in general to a lesser extent. She never let Sasuke get around her back, she was always watching like a scared cat. The silence was ended by Kakashi. We will stop by Kumo and ask them to keep a lookout for Naruto. Hopefully our assumptions are correct, and we can complete our assignment. No words were spoken for the duration of the day. They traveled with only the sound of rustling leaf and footfalls to drive them forward. As the sun set and light faded to darkness, they would set up camp. Kakashi held up his hand as a sign to stop. We will camp for the night and continue tomorrow. Get some rest, we will be leaving early. The squad set up their tents and turned in for the night. Only Sasuke had other plans. Opening the flap, he moved over to his fiancée's tent and unzipped the entrance. Looking in, he saw she was curled up with her blankets tucked under her, preventing heat to escape. Seeing her asleep, he inched his way closer to her slumber body and reached his hand towards the edge of blankets to remove them. Suddenly, before Sasuke could react, a translucent blue tendril of Yukai shot from her necklace, stopping him from touching her. Yanking his hand from the grasp of the twisting chakra, his hand looked charred and burned as if held within a fire. Not risking further injuring himself, he left Rei to sleep. After Sasuke left Rei's tent, said girl opened her eyes and was trying to slow her fast breathing. She had known Sasuke would attempt to get near her again and was grateful to have the possessive necklace. Thank you, Naruto, she whispered while grasping the jewel, and as if the Yukai could hear her words, it hummed within her hands, filling her body with warmth. Come on, Kiri. Omoy, stop being so loud, it's not cool. The ever-stoic and uncaring Samui spoke as she and her team scouted the borders of Kumo and Iwa looking for ninja activity, and eliminate it. Yeah, Kiri, what happens if we are overheard by the Tsuchikage and he pinpoints our location, then sends ninja to take us out silently to open a hole in our defenses and sends an army in to take Kumo by surprise? The exaggerated story was spun by none other than the pessimistic Omoy. Omoy, shut up, all your overthinking will get us killed. Flat chest Kiri responded loudly. Samui sighed heavily, so not cool, guys. Little did these three chunin know they were being watched and followed by the stealthy and vigilant Naruto as he sailed above the clouds their village was named for. Naruto had been watching these three ninja traverse the rocky terrain of Kaminari no Kuni. With little else to do, he would wait till they tired themselves out, and he would swoop down and nab one and steal whatever secrets they know of the Jinchuriki and other ninja. Time was his as ally. He had been kicked out of the mountainside cave he had created shortly after dawn, and told don't come back until sunset. Kiyomi had been strict with that order. He saw his prey make a 90-degree turn and dart towards the borders. Naruto flared his gills quickly and ascertained a picture of everything within a 4-mile radius. It seems there are 3 Iwa ninja hugging the cliff side on the Kumo side of the border. This should be entertaining. Naruto saw the 3 chunin stop the Iwa nin and begin to converse. Nothing said mattered to the blonde demon. He would get what he wanted and nothing less. Before long, the Iwa ninja drew kunai and started pelting the area, only for the Kumo trio to swat them out of the air with quick sword swipes. This is your last warning, Iwa nin, leave peacefully, Samui said, and Kiri, cut in or you will leave in pieces. The redhead leveled her sword to the enemy. Iwa never retreats, get them. The master Wagakure shinobi started their hand signs. 3 individual cries of Doton, Dori Yuden, Doton, Dori Yurso and Doton, Dori Taiga. The dusty dry ground quickly changed into slippery mud while a large brown dragon emerged from the soggy ground. While Team Samui was busy trying to avoid the dragon and keep balance on the mud, they forgot about the third jutsu. As Kiri landed on the mud and brandished her sword ready to charge into battle, a sharp spire of rock shot from beneath her, narrowly dodging it, and while it missed the original target of skewering her, it still tore open a good-sized chunk from her kidney. Kiri screamed out while the blood poured from her arteries and veins. Quickly forming up, Samui and Omoy took hold of her arms and hid as Kiri tried to stem the blood flow. God, it's not stopping. I don't think I will make it, guys, the redhead spoke through clenched teeth while her clothes and hands were drenched in blood. Don't say that we will get you out alive. If you die, who will keep me in line? I could be stuck rambling and the enemy would get the drop on me. You need to be there to stop me. Kiri Omoy was nearing tears as he heard his closest friend and secret crush bleeding behind him. Hey Omoy, it sounds like you need me as a wife to keep you focused. Kiri could feel her head getting light. Omoy wiped his eyes with his wrist. Only if you make it out of this alive, Kiri. You need to hang on. Now, of all the things Kiri expected her friend to say, she never expected him to ask for an engagement. Omoy, you're always exaggerating. You two need to escape. I can hold them off long enough for you guys to escape. Samui was silent throughout the touching moment, feeling no need to intrude on their exchange until now. I'm sorry, Omoy, she is right. By the blood loss so far and speed of taking her with us, the Iwa nin would easily catch up. We must escape and warn the nearest outpost. With few options left, Omoy conceded, fine, but I am staying with Kiri to make sure you get a good head start. Samui was always the cold, calculating woman who never let anything shake her while keeping a balanced head to make tough decisions as the leader of her team and only friends. But at the prospect of losing those she considered siblings, even her eyes were moistening. Fine, Omoy, Kiri, do all you can to live through this. Taking Kiri cheeks in her palms, I always thought of you as a little sister, and with that she kissed the crown of her head, and you my brother Omo kissing his head as well. Be safe, Samui. Kumo needs you. With those words, Samui jumped from their hiding spot and broke into a dead sprint for the nearest outpost just a couple miles away. When the IWA Nin caught sight of the blonde woman escaping, they began pursuit only to be stopped by the bleeding Kiri leaning against Omo. Where do you think you bastards are going? We aren't done with you yet, the bloodied woman yelled. You Kumo Nin don't know when you're beat. If you just play dead, we will let you live, the half-mast IWA squad leader spoke. That was a pathetic lie. Whatever you have planned, you wouldn't leave us alive, Omo said plainly while he unsheathed his sword. The leader of the Tsuchi Nin laughed. You caught me. So much for the easy way, boys. The three IWA ninja quickly vanished from their spots to appear in front of the duo, preventing them from keeping anonymity. Swinging kunai, the Rock Nin trio apparently had taken lessons from Konoha because their teamwork was near flawless, swiping and ducking, letting the next person swipe while cycling through patterns of attack. Omo and Kiri were doing alright. When it began, they had a reach advantage, keeping their opponents at bay. Slowly but surely, the 2 versus 3 duo war on the sword-wielding duo. Numerous shallow slices and stabs littered Omo, and he had taken what hits he could for Kiri to keep her alive. Doton, Dorihiki, one of the ninjas shouted. The wall erupted from the earth, but instead of it forming between them, it burst from beneath the Kumo duo, launching them into the air for a harsh landing. Omo breathed heavily as he watched the blue skies. If I die here, the Raikage would be so angry he would take it out on the nearest buildings, and with Kumo rebuilding from his rampage, IWA would attack and cause the next Shinobi War. But then again, if I die here, I wouldn't have to worry anymore. Obviously, Omo had become delusional with the lack of blood and his injuries. Kiri, on the other hand, was no longer coherent to anything around her. Kill them and let's catch that last one before she can alert more. The leader popped a soldier pill, while his subordinate raised a kunai to end the short lives of the injured couple. The ninja weapon of choice was stopped in a shower of blood as the busted blonde Samui severed the IWA ninja's hand and came around with a diagonal slice with her sword, killing him by decapitation. Taking labored shallow breaths, Omo caught sight of his savior. Samui, what are you doing? Get out of here, you should have gotten help. Samui stood, her unflinching glare focused on the enemy. I would rather die with my friends than live without them. With that she charged. Her tanto gleamed in the sunlight as she flashed her quick sword strikes. Her arcing swings kept the IWA ninja at bay. Clang, these IWA ninja were trained well to counter swords, as the captain had stopped the blade during her weakest strike right at the beginning of an upswing. With Samui's blade stalled, the second man flipped over his captain for a heel drop. Abandoning her locked weapon for an escape was the only viable option to avoid the skull-crushing blow. Disarmed and outnumbered, she brandished duo kunai to combat the precise duo. Come now, Kumo ninja, can we not be civil and work this out? You 3 don't have to die here today. Simply let us do our mission and you can leave. Apparently these ninja were not friends, as she had just beheaded one, and they barely flinched. While still holding the kunai across her body ready to strike, she responded, and what is your mission that you have to be in Kumo territory? Straightening his posture, we are here to ransack the border farming towns to expand IWA territory to feed our growing country. Narrowing her eyes further, Samui spat out, you will never take our land. By the creasing around his cloth mask, it was plain he was frowning. That is unfortunate. I do not revel in killing, but my country needs the agriculture. Before Samui knew what had happened, the man she was speaking to turned to earth and crumbled to the ground, and the real one rose from beneath her and plunged his kunai into her soft stomach. She was beyond stunned to do anything past simply trying to fill her weakening lungs with air. As Samui stood there bleeding, the IWA Nin closed his eyes and murmured a prayer under his breath. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Sliding the kunai from her flesh, he spun for a quick slice across the throat. Thud. Looking at the appendage that materialized before his weapon, it was a pale arm that had stopped his kunai. Following the length of the arm, he looked into the deep pools of blood staring into his soul. Taking in the presence of Naruto, the IWA ninja saw the outstretched wings looking like something from a nightmare, and the chiseled body. Before the captain even knew what had happened, he found his head in the iron grip of the blonde demon. Quickly he felt his strength leave him till he lacked the strength to stand and flop to the ground when released. With the stolen knowledge and memories, Naruto called out, Kazuki, take Captain Fujiwara, your deceased partner, and return to your camp. Startled by this man who had appeared and simply disabled his superior so easily, Kizuki followed the orders and ran with the squad under his arms. Once Kizuki was out of sight, Naruto turned his sights to the woman behind him, bleeding from the large stab wound to her stomach and blood seeping from her mouth as she gasped for air. Samui laid on the ground staring into the bright sun, feeling her life slipping away each second. Her view of the sun was blocked by a large winged silhouette who spoke to her. Do you wish to live a life of servitude or die and fade into the darkened pages of history? Without my friends I have nothing in life, but I fear what I will find in death, Samui thought to herself. Lifting her bloodied hand, she reached out to him in a silent plea for help. He watched the woman lay on the ground and reach for him. Taking that as his answer, he called upon the distant yokai of his eternal demoness, and familiar purple hues sprang to life around his hands and danced across his skin. Placing his large clawed hand across the bleeding wound, his purple yokai began to spread over her skin like a creeping moss. The escaped blood sizzled off her skin and clothes till she was in pristine condition once again. The wound closed, and her body returning to normal, he began to skim her knowledge, such as important Kumo events, Jinchuriki identities, and even her own bra size was some of the things she deemed important. Last but not least, he witnessed her hidden emotions for her deceased friends holding each other in death. Shaking his head of the sadness Naruto felt for them, he used his power to shift her deceased friends to the base of the nearby cliff and sunk their bodies into the rock and used one of her memories to carve out an image. Standing immortalized in stone, Team Samui stood together, one. The sun blazing across the sky, heating the ground below and illuminating the darkness. Naruto enjoyed the warm sunshine as he sailed towards the IWA camp Fujikawa's squad had set up. Lazily flapping his wings, Naruto cruised with the currents, watching for landmarks to direct him. Held gently within his arms, Samui stirred from her sleep to see the blood-red eyes of Naruto staring back. Good to see you are awake, Samui Komatsu. Kaya! A swift palm strike to the chin was all Naruto got. Finding little amusement in the weak blow, he dropped his arms and let the woman plummet to earth. For miles around, the high-pitched screaming could be heard as Samui's usual stoic attitude was forgotten in favor of the gap that was quickly getting smaller before she went splat. Ah! Eyes closed tightly, the only thing Samui could hear apart from her voice was the whipping winds rushing past her. Suddenly the wind stopped, but her screaming persisted. Naruto had caught the terrified kunoichi long before she hit the ground, but her shrill cries continued. Shaking her sharply, she stopped and looked wide-eyed into his eyes once more. Samui drew her arm back once again to strike the man, but she looked out to see only clouds and the distant ground below staring back at Naruto. Only this time she was fixated not on his entrancing eyes but his gothic bone wings giving off mighty flaps to keep them aloft the skies. Samui was terrified. This man had wings. No man should have wings. He was an abomination, a terror, a demon. Put me down! Her struggling began. Not risking killing the woman he had just saved, he folded his wings and they turned into a nose dive towards earth. Samui gripped Naruto tightly as she saw them near the forested area below, and just as they met the treetops, the demon's wings spanned out and caught wind, halting their speed almost instantly. Landing softly on the ground, he released his hold on the woman, and she immediately darted into the forest. Samui ran and jumped as fast as she could towards Kumo when a shout of Tsubasakiri rang out, and all the trees around her gave way and fell to the ground. The kunoichi landed on the ground and looked around for at least 100 yards in every direction had been clear-cut, not a tree stood. Samui watched the crouched Naruto fold his wings and stand after releasing a forest-devastating jutsu. Now, why would you want to run? Who are you? She screamed at the calm, shirtless Naruto. Who is but the form following the function of what, and what I am is a demon personified as a man. The blond man stomped his foot into the dirt, and an intricate earthen throne rose beneath him. Now please tell me who you are. Once again she took off towards the tree-line. As she neared the edge, Naruto appeared floating gently aloft the ground in her path. It seems you are not one for pleasantries, but I have other things to do today, so we will have to reschedule introductions for another time. A chop of the hand, and she was out. Placing the unconscious woman on his back, Naruto took to the skies towards the small IWA camp. Naruto's keen eyesight picked up the movements through the trees and identified the figure as the man he had scared off. Deciding on greeting the man the old-fashioned way when he caught up to him. Fuck, this is so bad, we failed the mission and lost Kenta. Tsuchikage will not be pleased, Kizuki thought to himself. He held his captain in a fireman carry when the tree in front of him was struck by a lightning bolt and exploded, spraying wooden shrapnel everywhere. Standing amongst the chunks of wood, Naruto held Samui tightly. Greeting, Kizuki, I hope I didn't startle you. Naruto gave off a slight smile to indicate peaceful intentions, but then again his exploding tree did not help. Raising a kunai from his pocket, Kizuki prepared to fight to the death. They stared at each other, anticipating a movement that neither would make. Naruto spoke, breaking the tense silence. Don't worry, if I had wanted you dead you would have exploded instead of the tree. I simply wished to speak with you. Again those words did little to comfort the IWA Nin. With his hand shaking from fear or exhaustion, Kizuki didn't know, but he spoke tersely. Speak quickly then. I know of your mission to gain more land for agriculture, and I have a solution to that problem, the blonde demon said. Stiffening at the mention of his mission and this solution Naruto spoke of, Kizuki was intrigued. Anything you have to solve our problems has already been tried. IWA had exhausted every option to enhance our lands, but it is too desolate to support my people any longer. Sachikage saw that, and we now take what we need to live. Naruto gave him a large fanged smile. There is one option you have never seen. Dragging a barefoot across the ground, a simple bush sprouted from beneath the dirt. I control the elements as I see fit, and can shape it to my will. As if to punctuate his mastery over the plants, his small bush began to grow a variety of fruits not possible from a shrub. Now Kizuki, I have a proposition for your Sachikage, so if you would please lead the way. Seeing the hesitation within the man's eyes, Naruto added a threat to his request. You can take me to IWA, or I can rip the knowledge from your head before forcing each of your organs to explode before your brain melts out through your ears. He ended it with predatory grin. Kizuki's eyes widening were the only indication that the threat terrified him. Fine then, let's go. That Sachikage should have received the missive of my failure. He will be my team. You on the other hand make no sudden movements when we enter IWA. Your ability seems far too important to lose. A laugh escaped Naruto's lips. Glad to know you care. Now if you would show the way. Gesturing with his hands for Kizuki to continue his journey, said man jumped into action and moved towards his destination. Miles away, Naruto's lightning bolt was seen by 4 people who are looking for him. Sasuke raised his eyes skyward. Did you guys see the flash of lightning? Before anyone could reply, the sonic boom reached their ears. That was actual lightning to split the sound barrier. Should we investigate, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura was showing why her forehead was so large, to hold loads of useless information. Rock hit rock, make fire, all I need, no caveman face. Nonchalantly closing his ever-present novel, we would be crossing into Shimo territory, but knowledge of who can create natural lightning could be useful. Kakashi seemed to have a way to irritate Sakura, as once again she was holding back, using her strength to cripple him. Sakura pulled her gloves tight. Is that a yes or a no? I suppose it would be interesting to me to use her more proficient in right and then myself adjusting their course. They unknowingly were on the trail of Naruto. Back at the mountainside cave between Shimo no Kuni and Kaminari no Kuni. Twirling around, Kiyomi was giving Mei a show of her new outfit. So Mei, what do you think? Stopping her movement, she did a fierce pose, one hand on her hip, while she half turned towards her audience of one. Mei's eyes traveled the form-fitting clothing with an eye for detail. The tanned hot pants hugged her tightly, with the crisscrossing belts holding her finely crafted jutty molded from Yukai-infused steel. Moving up, her C-cup held snugly beneath a laced-up leather top that only served to cover her chest and left the smooth, unblemished skin below visible. Mei's eyes continued to roam up and down the demoness. Knee-high stockings disappeared into leather steel-capped boots, and to top off the stupendous look, a pale green cloak zipped up around Kiyomi's neck while the rest flowed down her back. 1. Closing her open mouth, it is amazing, Kiyomi, was the only thing Mei could say. Excellent, then I am sure to wow Naruto and get some more sexy time. A pink tinge spread across her cheeks while she thought about their first time a couple nights ago. Mei's cheeks too blossomed a red hue as she remembered the sounds she pleasured herself to. Beating down the blush, she would never cross the demoness who could gut and spread her remains before she could blink. Oh, what is this I see? Mei blushing from naughty thoughts. Now who could it be? Kiyomi giggling as she pestered the mortal. Come on, Mei, share who could cause such dirty thoughts. Kiyomi already knew from her mind-reading powers, but getting the woman to admit was so much more fun. It is nothing, your look made me feel self-conscious is all. Turning slightly to avoid looking into the pleading red eyes. Lying is such a bad habit, Mei. Now are you going to tell me, or should I drain the knowledge from you as Naruto would do? Kiyomi pounced with outstretched arms to get hold of the Yotan user, who swiftly dodged to keep the secret. You wouldn't dare. Only Naruto can do that, right? Mei sounded abhorred, but from the look on her face you could tell it was all in good fun. Kiyomi's angelic laughter reverberated off the cavern walls. You think Naruto didn't teach me how? It was the greatest thing he taught me. Now hold still. The game of cat and mouse continued on, both using unparalleled agility and flexibility to dodge and evade. Finally, Kiyomi had cheated and used her demonic powers to reshape the cave to trap the Kunoichi's arms and legs. I've got you now. An evil chuckle passed her lips as her delicate hand neared Mei's face. Wait. Stop. I'll tell you. The Yotan user screeched. Kiyomi raised an eyebrow in question to urge the answer she knew. She watched the woman's lips move, but barely a word escaped. I'm sorry, Mei, but I can't hear you. Back to option 1. Okay Naruto, I said. Naruto, after your night of passion I couldn't stop thinking about him. Now, feeling vulnerable and exposed, she turned her head. Releasing the stone bindings, Kiyomi giggled. Haha, I already knew, but getting you to say it was hard. Mei's head snapped to look at the demoness. You're not angry? Why would I be angry? You humans have such short lives and care too much of what others think. But I like your lover. You don't feel threatened? Kiyomi brushed her stray hairs aside and gestured to her body. I am near perfect in every aspect of the physical sense, but Naruto is more than a physical man. I know I am his one, he is my one, and whatever happens he will never leave me, but perhaps he could use a number two. Crossing the distance between them quickly. Mei backpedaled quickly. What are you doing, Kiyomi? I just want to know, what do you dream of Naruto doing to please you? Does he drag his tongue across your sensitive skin like so? Kiyomi poked her tongue out and slowly flicked her tongue up her neck. Stricken both by thoughts of Naruto actually doing that, and the soft tongue currently doing so, Kiyomi stopped that. Weakly trying to push the demoness away. But Mei, this is so much fun, maybe Naruto could join us when he gets back. Feeling hot under her clothes, Mei tried to resist, but Kiyomi made it very difficult. I don't know. Unfortunately we can't continue. Kiyomi gave the woman a soft pinch on her and turned towards the cave exit. Naruto will have to decide if he likes you. Leaving the cave, Kiyomi burst into flames to join Naruto wherever he was. Mei sat extremely aroused and dazed. She lazily touched her through her dress. Maybe there is a chance with Naruto after all. Kakashi and his squad soon came upon the clearing Naruto created, and jaws dropped at the devastation. Kakashi-sensei, who could possibly do something like this? Sakura questioned. Aforementioned silver-haired man knelt next to a fallen log and ran his fingers across the sheared wood. I don't know who, but it was wind chakra used to make these cuts. Standing up, Kakashi saw the logs had all fell in a pattern pointing towards an epicenter of destruction. Ray came to the same conclusion and ran through to the center of the chaos. Standing in the place Naruto had stood an hour or so earlier, his yukai left a powerful imprint, and her necklace reacted. Kakashi, Naruto did this. Ray said loud enough for everyone to hear. Are you sure, Ray? I am certain my necklace is responding. To emphasize, she held the necklace out, and everyone watched it vibrating in what you could call happiness if a semi-sentient object could feel. Humming in satisfaction, Kakashi smiled. We have stumbled onto our objective's trail. This mission may not be a failure after all. Lazily turning his eyes back to his book, he spoke. Ray, which direction does the necklace seem to react? Ray closed her eyes and held the pendant softly in her hands. Slowly she turned on the spot till she felt her jewel call out, Master. Pointing westbound, the squad started sprinting. Forgotten was the quest for the lightning user, but they were on the trail regardless. With Naruto. The demon journeyed the cooling winds with Samui held in his arms until he felt it. Like a pull on his mind, the wispy words echoed, Master. His jewel seemed to be very needy as it called to him regularly, simply to be acknowledged and to replenish the minute yukai. Kizuki was setting a grueling pace for any shinobi. Sadly, Naruto was something more and lazily soared above the treetops, keeping eye on where he was headed. The blonde demon continued to watch the ninja below him push on while carrying the exhausted Fujikawa. Kizuki, you are slowing down. What is the problem? Common sense fought with him to ask for help from the demon, but pride as a capable ninja refused to allow it. In the end, pride won. There is no problem, he said gruffly between his deep breathing. Laughing at the stubbornness of people, Naruto let his transformation progress, and his human feet changed into sharpened talons. You're right, there is no problem. Like a raptor of the sky, his talons gripped the unconscious Fujikawa, and he lifted him from the grip of his guide. Effortlessly dodging stationary obstacles, Naruto flew up. Once again above the treeline with another passenger. Breathing a sigh of relief at no longer carrying his heavy captain, Kizuki turned his eyes skyward. What are you called? I am Naruto of the Mizoku. Assuming talking to the demon would make time fly, he questioned further, why are you carrying the Kumo Nin captain killed? She is not dead, only unconscious. I had healed the minor wound she had, Naruto retorted. The skills and abilities preformed by this demon baffled Kizuki. Not only can he create natural lightning, but he healed a fatal wound that he called minor. This person was everything IWA could have wished for to raise it to a glorious future. You're an incredible individual, Naruto. Tsuchikage will be pleased to hear your willingness to help IWA. My aid comes at a steep price, as your Tsuchikage will learn, but my solution will prove to be of greater value. Not knowing of what a demon could possibly want, Kizuki left that train of thought. The sun is setting. I will make camp and continue in the morning. Kizuki landed on the dirt with a soft thud while Naruto soundlessly touched down. Laying Fujikawa face up, his talons vanished back into human feet. Tomorrow, I will take us directly to Iwagakure no Sato. Kizuki laughed at him. IWA is still 4 days' travel on foot. Even at your speeds it would still be at least 2. You assume to know of my limits and abilities. Feeling for his pendant, Naruto guesstimated its distance and ETA. We will encounter a squad of ninja early tomorrow, and after I want to speak with your leader. Staring eastward, he could feel his jewel moving towards him. I have humored your methods, but mine will be faster. How do you know a squad of ninja will be here? You set this up to have me captured and reveal weakness of IWA. Kizuki was going into a hysteric fit thinking of capture. Naruto rolled his eyes. Remember what happened to your captain. I could exhaust you before you knew what to do. Kizuki vividly remembered Fujikawa simply falling over exhausted after Naruto got a hold of him. Oh right, but how do you know a squad will be here? Hoping to learn a little more from the powerful being. One of them possesses a jewel that has been empowered and continually calls to me and my yukai to replenish itself. So you always know where they are. Laying Samui on the grass, Naruto summoned up roots of the surrounding plants to restrain her limbs. I only know where the wearer of the necklace is since she cannot remove it. Oh, why can't she remove it? Kizuki had set up his tent against a sturdy tree and set Fujikawa inside. Because it doesn't want to leave her. His mastery over plants was displayed as a cherry blossom tree rose from the dirt, growing and leaving a large hollowed-out section for Naruto and Samui to sleep in. Before Kizuki could question further, the area was bathed in a bright red-orange as flames exploded behind Naruto. Already feeling the familiar other half of himself, Kiyomi was revealed beneath the fire as she latched onto his arm. I wondered where you had wandered off to. Naruto observing her surroundings, she saw the tense man watching her with a kunai ready. Her eyes settled on the restrained form of Samui. You picked up another one, Naruto. Am I not enough for you? Her eyes watered, taking on a scared expression. Naruto may not be able to feel emotions the way Kiyomi could, but he felt like a part of him had died when she gave him those wide eyes. What? No, Kiyomi, you're all I ever need or want. She was dying. I saved her, and couldn't leave her laying on the ground. Turning to face Kizuki, the demoness said, Leave. I have much to say to Naruto. The IWA Nin, knowing not to defy the woman, quickly took a sprint through the trees. That is why she is restrained. Because you saved her? Scrambling for a reason, but Naruto had none. He simply did it. Samui tried to run and I stopped her. That's why she is restrained. Turning his head away, not willing to look into Kiyomi's eyes. Then why did you not just let her leave? Because she knew more of Kyumo. Giving him a steady stare, then take her knowledge and leave her or kill her. I can't. Can't or won't, Naruto? Why does this matter to you, Kiyomi? You're picking up these mortals left and right, and you think this shouldn't matter. I just can't kill her. Why not? Because I can't kill myself. Standing looking at the demon who was once cold and heartless, a demon who brutally murdered thousands of innocents before, Kiyomi could sense his emotions were muddled on this matter. Naruto, what is this really about? Naruto's eyes were bloodshot and tears were being held back. It all started back when I killed that woman back in Makio. It was in rage and it was a blur, but I slaughtered her family mercilessly. Both of her small children saw me eat their father. They ran and never felt me end their lives. The blonde demon's body shook with muscle spasms as he tried to control his breathing. I felt terrible, but the euphoric high afterward washed away the pain. I couldn't stop myself. I tried justifying it all for revenge, and I knew it was wrong, but it didn't stop me. Naruto closed his eyes to try and push back the memories as tears finally dropped from his lashes. I lost myself to the feelings and no longer cared. When I forced myself on you, it brought me some semblance of my humanity back. I gave you half of everything I had taken so you would be able to fight me back if I ever tried again. Kiyomi felt her insides twist and turn as she listened to her love retell his memories and emotions. Sure, it's alright, Naruto. Circling her slender arms around his large body, she hugged him tightly, trying to stop herself from breaking into a sobbing mess as well to comfort him. After each demon killed, I would take everything they knew and felt into myself to never forget. It became like a nightmare, their cries of terror and pain as I ended their lives. Only being in the euphoric state silenced their screams. Holding his lover, her continued letting his emotions flow. I used everything I knew to kill everyone I saw. The men would try and resist till I had caused so much pain they would simply lay while I consumed them. Women screamed themselves silent, children were no different. I would begin to eat them while they were alive. It made the high last longer. I felt nothing other than desire to suppress what I had done, but it only got worse. Naruto hid his face into her crimson hair, wetting it with his tears. Finding her voice, Kiyomi spoke. Naruto, you are not alone. I am here with you. I can help you bear some of this if you let me. Naruto opened his teary eyes and looked into the equally waterlogged eyes of his love. I do not want you to see the terrible things I have done. The demoness laughed lightly. I did not fall in love with your past. I fell in love with you here and now. Nothing can change my love. foreheads touching as Naruto's eyes focused on hers, discerning if she really wanted him to share his burden. He found nothing other than love and determination in her ruby stare. If this is what you want, Kiyomi, I will let you know. Leaning his face forward, her claimed her supple lips in a searing kiss, and Yukai began to flare between them. Like dancing fire, it skipped across their skin, leaving not a trace. Naruto ended the kiss, and as he pulled away like a river flowing from his mouth into her, his memories flew. A fast-paced slideshow began in her mind, showing everything from their time entering Makio to their exit. 3 years of terror, desperation, and thousands upon thousands of years' worth of information taxed Kiyomi greatly, and when it was done she collapsed into her love's arms. A few tears escaped her eyes for the many deceased. I love you, Naruto, now and forever. Slowly her eyes closed, and she fell asleep in his arms. Naruto lay beneath his gnarled tree with Kiyomi upon his chest, whimpering softly in her sleep. Kizuki returned to the camp minutes later and quickly entered his tent. He would need his energy for the incoming ninja. Morning came quickly for Samui, and she awoke to find herself bound and her captor laying next to her. Doing a mental check for any aches or pains between her legs, she felt nothing and gave a sigh of relief that nothing had happened. Twisting her hands back and forth, the roots slipped up her hand. She quickly untied her ankles and pulled a kunai from a pocket within her skirt. Raising it up to slay the blonde demon before he or the woman sleeping on him woke, she stabbed for his temple. Red iris snapped open and a muscled hand caught her kunai before throwing her backwards. Naruto roused Kiyomi from his chest, and he rose to face Samui. I bring you back from death's clutches and you repay my kindness by attempting to kill me? And like the lightning he created the day before, Naruto flashed upon her, and had lifted her by the throat. I should kill you now. His eyes lowered and focused on Kiyomi sitting on the dirt watching with sharp eyes. But I can't. Lowering Samui to her feet, Naruto stepped back and gestured to the surrounding trees. Leave if you must, but I cannot kill you. Samui's eyes darted back and forth between her captor and freedom. Maybe he is only seeing if I will run before he stops me again. He is defiantly fast enough to catch me like before. Why are you letting me go now? Naruto looked into Kiyomi's eyes that now shared the same burden as he. Because I changed my mind. Taking a chance, Samui lowered her knife and knelt on the ground. You asked who I was. I am Samui Komatsu of Kumogakure no Sato. Rank Jonin, leader of my T-team. Talking about her friends gone from this world was difficult since she hasn't had time to come to terms with it. Picking up on her thoughts about the deceased, he supplied some words to console her. Do not worry for your friends. I had taken care of their burial and marked their site. When there is time, I can take you to see it. Smiling slightly at the kindness the stranger had shown, she bowed her head in gratefulness. Thank you. I never got your name. The name is Naruto of the Mizoku. Thank you, Naruto, for your kindness for the burial of my friends and healing me. Waving off the woman, Naruto turned his piercing eyes to eastward. Kuma will be worried over one of their jonin missing. You better be leaving, Samui. Nodding her head in agreement, she stood and dusted her knees off. Turning to the trees, Naruto grabbed her forearm and released her shortly, leaving behind cursive writing for King of the Mizoku across her once unblemished skin. Looking at him questioningly, the blonde demon responded before she could ask. It is to contact me. When you are ready to visit them, focus on the writing and call to me. I will hear you. Once again nodding, she leapt into the trees and vanished amongst the branches. It was then Kizuki awakened from sleep and stumbled out of his tent to give an exaggerated stretch and yawn before rubbing his eyes. So when is this squad of ninjas supposed to arrive? Feeling the jewel closer, gave an estimate. They will arrive in a minute or so. Kizuki nodded and began absently checking his gear and dismantling the tent and hiding the awake and mumbling Fujikawa. Naruto finally turned his eyes to his beautiful lover sitting on the ground holding a hand out for her to stand. He hoisted Kiyomi to her feet. Finally taking in the lithe, barely clothed form of his love, he had to comment, "You look amazing, Kiyomi. Why the change in clothes?" The demoness did a little spin to show off each tightly hugged curves. Well, I thought since we would be traveling more and engaging in more physical battles now, I would need some clothes to fight in. Naruto chuckled lightly, and I'm sure it had nothing to do with how sexy you look in those shorts now, does it? To punctuate it question, he grabbed a nice handful of her bum while wrapping an arm around her lower back. Giggling softly, maybe it does. Kiyomi captured Naruto's lips in a hot kiss. While the demons enjoyed their moment, it was sadly ended by the Konoha squad passing the tree line and landing before them. Breaking off their heated actions, Naruto turned his now cold, fury-filled crimson eyes to the ninja. "Ah, so Konoha sends my old team, how thoughtful." Naruto's wings appeared in a haze of black mist to further intimidate them. Rei was the first to get her voice back from seeing him in person. Naruto Nikken. Kakashi spoke up, "Are you Naruto Namikaze?" Naruto laughed at the question. "You ask foolish questions. Everyone knows Naruto Namikaze died 3 years ago by the hand of his own father." Then who are you? Pointing to himself, the demon would humor them. I am what's left, Naruto Mizoku. Kakashi crinkled his mask, indicating a smile. So it is you, Naruto, glad we found you. Minato-sensei has called you back to Konoha. Sneering at the request, I would never set foot in the place unless to reduce it to ashes. Sakura decided to open her large mouth and dictate Naruto stop being an idiot and come back to Konoha quietly. It wouldn't look good if we brought you back in chains. Tightening her black gloves to signify her strength. Naruto stared blankly at her. You must be delusional. You believe you could tire, let alone subdue me. Sakura was easily goaded into proving him wrong. Charging forward, she swung her fist into his chest, hoping to break a few ribs and incapacitate him. Naruto watched as Sakura built chakra up in her fist for a mighty blow, but he simply drained it, leaving only her natural strength behind the punch. All watched with bated breath. Once it was clear Naruto had no intention of dodging.